because where is anybody in the government of Portland, Multnomah County, or I might add the state, who will actually look a camera in the eye and say, I want to try to save you money?
Yeah.
I think it belongs in your pocket and not in
These are great points.
mine.
Let's talk about this. Well, hello and good evening. This is Bourbon and Bullshit. I'm Jeff Church, and you are
Richard Cheverton.
And what we do on this show is we try a little bourbon, various other drinks if we have them, and we talk bullshit, which for our area of the world in Portland is it's politics, but it is bullshit. Basically,
It is the mother tongue.
So we're going to start off here. So this is Czechvar, which is Czech lager. The interesting story about Czechvar is it's actually in Czechia, or Czech Republic, depending on what you want to call it. It is actually called Budweiser in Czechia. And so I remember when I was there last year, and I hung out at this bar kind of regularly. It was a Irish bar, like an Irish pub type thing. But it was owned by a
Czechoslovakia.
Yeah, but it was owned by a Czech guy. It wasn't like it. I mean, and that was really the only place I could get decent like whiskey or bourbon. So I would hang out there. They had Buffalo Trace, which was it was like pretty much the only place you could get even anything halfway decent as far as bourbon went. But anyway, one day he was just like, "You want some?" I was like, because I love Czech beer. Czech Pilsner beer is great. I like Pilsners. I don't like a lot of Portland beers. They're they're really hoppy. Not really into that. And
it's
so
kind of a manhood thing, I think. I can drink a hoppier beer than you.
It totally is. It really is. And I think it tastes awful. Sorry, Portland beer brewers. Anyway, so he's like, "Do you want to try a Czech Budweiser?" I'm like, "Okay." And he poured it. I was like, "Oh, this is great." And anyway, I thought it was like, is some brewery in Czechia, are they making beer like Budweiser in the United States? So I didn't really understand what the reference was. But the thing was, the interesting story about it is that actually around the same time in Prague, where they produced the beer, and in wherever is it St. Louis that they produced Budweiser in?
Yeah.
They both developed a beer called Budweiser, like within a few years of each other, just randomly. Like it was just a random thing.
Somebody got sued.
Well, they've been trading lawsuits for like a century.
Jarndyce and Jarndyce.
and so what's actually the way that it is now is they can only call that's why they call it Czechvar here, because they can't call it Budweiser here because they'll get sued. So I think there's countries in Central Europe where they can call it Budweiser, but like Western Europe, no way, because there's a ton of Budweiser sold in Western Europe for whatever reason. It's kind of odd. But so they have to call it Czechvar there. And obviously in the United States they have to call it Czechvar. And I think they can't sell American Budweiser in certain countries in Central Europe. So that's what the agreement has been.
The politics of beer is very twisted.
It's very, exactly. It's serious.
This is actually very, very good. Unlike Budweiser, it actually tastes.
Yeah.
It has
I love this.
Taste.
It's great. I think I told you when I was over there, it was like I would go to the local store to get a beer like this in a bottle, but it was like a big one. It was like a 16 ounce or a 22 ounce or whatever they are.
You know how to get the job done over there.
Yeah, and like I would buy 4 of them, and it would be like $2.50. I mean, obviously they use their currency, but it would like basically, so it's like I think it's 23 to 1. So a beer would cost 15. I can't remember the name of their. I'm so sorry, I can't remember the name of their currency over there. But it costs 15 of the Czech currency, which is 15 of the 23rd. So it's like 2/3 of $1 for a beer, for a big beer.
Paradise. Well, Jeff, that brings us back to the central question that we both ask ourselves over and over again, particularly after we're kind of worked through
we're gonna get
bottles,
schnockered, by the way.
Which is, what the hell are we doing here in Portland?
Yeah, no, I mean, when I was over there, they were like, are you coming back? I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. Well, we also, obviously we need to break into the bourbon here.
Yes.
And we're doing a little bit of lighter stuff because we filmed one the other day and it didn't turn out all that well because I foolishly chose a bunch of cask strength bourbons for us to drink. So it was all like 120%. We drank too much of it. It devolved.
And then I fell down your front steps.
Then you fell down my front steps. And
Which is always a sign of a great party.
Absolutely. And so we're gonna do a little lighter stuff, but
excellent.
So I have a couple of weeded bourbons here. Now, for those in the not know, bourbon, it technically has to be 51% corn to be considered bourbon. Now, with weeded bourbons, they add wheat is usually not in bourbon, and so they add a lot of wheat to it rather than other grains, and so it sort of lightens it up quite a bit. It's usually a little sweeter, but lighter on the palate. It's not really heavy on the palate.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I love weeded bourbons. So we'll do a little pour. We'll do 1 ounce pours, so we're not getting into dangerous territory. All right.
Great nose.
Yeah, it's very crisp.
Good color too. I gotta say, this is what you kind of want bourbon to look like.
It's a beautiful,
very amber,
thing. Yes,
sparkly.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go in.
If that bottle actually goes missing after I leave, that's really good stuff.
I knew this would be more up your alley.
Yeah.
Sometimes I try to pass Richard off on my really high test stuff. And some of it gets really what I call chewy. It's almost like you have to chew on it because it's so complex and like, ooh,
Yeah.
But weeded bourbons tend to not do that. They're very nice drinking. They have a sweetness to them, right?
Yes.
There's a little bit of burn that goes down on this, but man, yeah, I'm especially like in summer,
Excellent.
It's a
great backyard.
Absolutely.
Way to get wasted. Especially since if you're in the backyard, you don't have to go down any stairs.
Right. No,
That's
exactly.
Excellent.
Right.
Okay, so.
And if you fall on your face, you fall on the grass.
Right.
Well, before we started videotaping, we were talking about Elon Musk and like the fact that, you know, especially in Portland and on the West Coast, there's a lot of hatred for Elon Musk for whatever reason. I think they, you know, people are very the progressives
irrationally emotional.
Yes, absolutely. And it's like if the progressive press points you in a direction for your hatred about the, you know, the meaninglessness of your life, they will gladly go along with it and just pile on, you know, and it's just like, it's kind of amazing to watch.
There was a time in the history of this country where a guy like Elon Musk would have been a hero.
Right.
I mean, he merely started, well, actually 4 companies that I can think of right off the top of my head. It should be the darling of the progressives because he actually made an electric car that people wanted to buy.
Oh, they're great cars too.
And you know, and he's.
Have you ever driven a Tesla?
I've been in a Tesla.
Yeah,
they're nice cars.
They're nice cars.
You know, he puts rockets into orbit.
And lands them.
He's completely changed the nature of the web being available in a whole bunch of places on the planet.
Absolutely.
And yet these morons just got fixated on him. Well, it was because of Trump.
Yeah.
They can't really go after Trump, but they could go after the guys who were in the and that's the point of attack right now.
Well, yeah, and I mean Trump is sort of a genius as far as this goes because I mean they hardly talk about Trump right now. All they're talking about is Elon Musk. You know, it's just like, so it's sort of a genius move on his part, like sleight of hand, sort of like, I'm going to do this stuff over here while you're burning Tesla plants down.
Well, that's another American tradition.
Right.
Screw with me,
and
I'll screw you back.
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
Which is kind of unusual in terms of the kind of lace-doily politics of places like Portland. We get to screw with you, but you don't get to screw us back because that's
racist.
Not nice.
It's racist, transphobic, or you know, whatever it is. Yeah, absolutely. It's some ism or phobia. You know, it's fascism. You know, it's just like, wow.
But you know, in 2 months, Elon and his merry crew came up with some astounding corruption.
Yeah.
Amazing. You won't read about it in any of the local rags.
No.
But theft. Unbelievable amounts of theft.
Oh my God. Well,
that people have been getting away with for years.
And we always knew that, right? People kind of joke about it. Oh, you know, it's like it costs, you know, $8,000 for a hammer at the, you know, for the Pentagon. And, you know, I remember stories like that back when I was a kid, you know, and it was just like, and you just sort of accept it. It's like, well, you didn't really process it through, like why it was happening. And he's showing the world why it's happening. And the progressives are like, we don't want to save any money. As long as he's doing it for us. We will literally starve, you know, in our houses and have to work 3 jobs and, you know, in sacrifice if we don't have to accept his, you know, way of doing things. You know, and it's just like...
And in terms of Oregon politics, which are various levels of the Democratic Party machine, you cannot have somebody running wild who is getting the mopes excited about the fact, you know, they waste a lot of money in government. And there are a whole bunch of people who are ripping us off. You cannot allow that to begin to percolate down to the level of the average voter. Well, that'll be the day. But the average voter in Portland or in Oregon, I'll look at what Musk is doing and say, well, You think there's some problems with that here in Oregon? That cannot be allowed.
No, and
because
they
should. Don't want to give up one thin penny.
Right, and it's in the state of Oregon. There's this weird thing, especially Portland and the city centers in Oregon. It's just like they're just overflowing with these nonprofits that are just sucking off the teat of the government, and no one knows what they really do. They don't have to show. True. They don't show what they do.
Yeah.
It's just like Candace Avalos, one of our new city councilors. She ran one of many of these people that run nonprofits. Her nonprofit was called Verte. It's probably still around. And it's like, I looked into Verte for hours, and I still couldn't figure out what the hell it did.
That's exactly the way they want it.
And it's just like, It's like, okay, well, you're sort of supporting the black community, but how really, And it's just like, there was one, and it might have been hers, but there was another one that was like, we are doing farm-to-table stuff for people of color from farmers who are people of color. And I think we looked into it, and it was like, well, how many black farmers are there in Oregon? And it was like, you could count them on two hands. And it was just...
But they're well looked after.
Oh, yes. They're doing quite well. Because equity.
Well, it's April, and that means that...
Isn't April the cruelest month?
Sure, you said that when it comes to taxes.
It really is.
But
that was a Shakespeare thing. When April was the cruelest month, or
that was T.S. Eliot.
Oh, that's right.
The guy from St. Louis.
Love T.S. Eliot.
Who went to London and became a Brit.
Yes.
Basically, wonderful guy.
God.
But we're coming up on the 15th, and that means we have to pay an arts tax of $35 per head, which in other places in the world is called a poll tax, and is a big no-no in terms of the American jurisprudence, except that they wormed their... Well, first of all, the Oregon Supreme Court said, fine, no problem.
Right.
And they put in you don't have to pay it if you make less than $1,000 a year. Which means if you're in a county-supplied tent out next to the Multnomah County Library, you're home free.
Right.
But everybody else has to pay the $35.
But there's a lot of people in those situations who are getting disability. They're getting $600-700 a month in disability. Does that mean? I mean, that's money, right? So does that mean they have to pay their $35?
Yeah.
Do you pay? Honestly, do you pay the arts tax?
I'm a big chicken, and I do.
Oh, I don't.
Really?
I haven't paid it for...
You're a scofflaw.
I haven't paid it for years. I just refuse.
Aren't you afraid that they're going to come and...
No.
You guys have got your head up over the side of the trench. You're just asking for trouble.
I know. But here's the thing. What I found out about the arts tax is that they have...
It's a piece of bullshit is what it is.
Well, it is, first and foremost. But the other thing is they have no way to collect it from you.
Really?
Yeah, they have no way... Like, if you don't pay it, they have no avenue to go after you for not paying it.
Can't they put a lien on your house or something?
No, they can't. Like they can't do any of that with the arts tax. And I don't know if it's because it's the type of tax that it is. And it's just like, oh, just send your money in, and it's just like, no.
That seems like anarchy to me, which should be a big deal in Portland. I mean, we love anarchy.
How many of these anarchists pay their art tax? Like, seriously. Like, none of those people pay their art tax. I mean, why would
Does
they?
Angelita Murillo pay her arts tax?
Angelita Murillo.
Well, I'd be interested. Does Steve Tiny Terror Novick?
Oh, I'm sure he does. He's got to.
I bet he does. Yeah.
God
because he wants more money from us. You know, we were talking before the cameras rolled, but one of the things that you can count on, it's like the swallows coming back to Capistrano. And I actually saw swallows in Capistrano once in my lifetime, but it's the same thing. The minute these guys, these gals and guys get into office, they want more of our money.
Yeah, of course.
There is no Elon Musk anywhere in Oregon.
No. It's like
Anywhere.
saying, well, interestingly enough, and I didn't follow up on the story enough, but there was a couple of Oregon politicians, I think they were in the House, the state House, and they said, oh, wait a second, we could do this, and I think they were following the Elon Musk, tactic. And they showed that they could, you don't have to raise taxes at all. Oh, Finnegan. Okay, time out. You just knocked over our camera.
Hello.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
You are a nutcase.
Too happy. You were too happy, weren't you, buddy? Yeah. How could we have snuck in here and not let you know?
We're gonna keep filming here.
Is your phone okay?
Yeah, it's fine. It's just
Don't edit that out.
No.
No, seriously, don't edit.
No, it's pretty funny. Like he's just a moral terror.
You're
like
a moral
he's just
terror.
like
Well, he's a redhead.
yeah.
That's why.
Exactly.
He's a red-haired doggy.
Hi, Vin. So yeah. No, but there was a couple of Republicans, and I wish I would have followed up on this a little bit more, because they were saying, well, we could actually, there's all these ways that we can save money, and of course, it's completely ignored by the powers that be that control the state, which are the progressives, because you can't agree with anything the Republicans say, or you're a fascist, or you're fascist adjacent. So
Makes sense.
Like
Absolutely.
so, there's been several stories in the legacy media around Portland of them talking about raising taxes in various ways, and Portland's already one of the highest taxed municipalities in the country. I think it's second to New York City, if you can imagine that. And
Well, we have so many more amenities than New York City has. We have actual art in our art museum. Don't get me going on that.
Mm-mm. So you went downtown the other day to see, or it was PSU. You went to the Lincoln Theater, right? It was
Yes,
PSU.
I ended my long estrangement with Chamber Music Society, I think it's called, because they had a great program, and it was 4 nights. I had to miss one. I had a conflict there, but Shostakovich's quartets, which are just amazing, wonderful music, and great crowd, no coughing. Here we are in the middle of the flu season, and nobody was coughing. It's that kind of compelling, absolutely, in some cases, in some situations, you could say it is harrowing.
Yes.
Because he was able to deal with things in the context, and you have to understand Shostakovich as a guy who lived in, talk about progressive and socialism, he was locked in.
Yeah.
He was underwater for very long periods, and in a situation in which if Joe Stalin came to your concert and he didn't like it, he would kill you. which is kind of tough when you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, Stalin liked killing people. And he would just wipe off whole, he would just kill everyone around him every, couple of years. I think.
Just kind of freshen up the...
Just sort of like, clean, literally clean the house.
Absolutely.
And it was tougher. When you were fired, you were dead.
And if you were one of the old Bolsheviks who would actually kind of set things up for Joe, well, you gotta go.
It doesn't matter, yeah.
Because you know how to do it.
Right.
That's the problem.
What do you think Stalin's thing was? Do you think he was...
He was a communist.
Do you think he was a psychopath, or do you think he was just...
He was a psychopathic communist.
Yeah.
which is interchangeable.
Right. No, I mean, there's...
Yeah, he really believed that stuff.
Yeah, he did.
It wasn't cynical.
Right.
He was a communist.
A dyed-in-the-wool, real communist, yeah.
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 And that's, it's the same thing with the guy who's running China now.
Yeah.
He's a communist.
Right.
And everybody is kind of running around trying to figure out a way to rationalize him. No, it can't be done.
Right.
It's what he believes in his heart. And his belief is that he ought to run it.
Yeah.
And he ought to run it under certain circumstances. And you don't... But, that impulse grades itself down until it gets to the level of, let's say, Portland, Oregon, where you have doctrinaire people who cannot escape from their preconception.
Right.
This is why we have a couple of the, a quasi-socialist and an actual honest-to-God socialist on city council who are talking about, we got to build more social housing. We have to socialize the housing market in Portland. As if we didn't have a lot of social housing already.
Exactly. And social housing is just a euphemism for
they own
the projects.
You don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're trying to do this thing where it's just like, and Portland nonprofits have been doing this for years. Suddenly, they're like Latino Network. Latino Network was basically this small organization run by originally Carmen Rubio's mother. And it was a way for Latino gang members to for them to work their issues out. Now, we've talked to people on the inside of that were there in the early days. There were murders involved with this organization, literally on site. A couple of gang members killed another couple of gang members. I mean, just frightening stuff.
Whoa.
So this is the history of this organization. Once Carmen Rubio took it over, all of a sudden their donations and their budgeting went up exponentially. And then they started buying into property. And so that's so for example, when you're talking about Sisters of the Road. Sisters of the Road was just this really simple downtown nonprofit. It had their little, it was a simple thing. They had, their little diner, and you would go in there, and you could either buy food for a meal for very cheap, or you could trade labor for it. So they'd put you in the back for a couple hours to wash some dishes or whatever. And so, and the woman who started was she was a Catholic nun or something like that. So, just sort of like how nonprofits used to be. It's just we're just gonna, this isn't a professional job. It's just we're gonna actually help people. We're gonna ask for donations. We're gonna put all the donations toward helping people. Well, Sisters of the Woke, which I call it, became woke, and they hired this fucking commie scumbag named Kat Mahoney. She's an attorney, and they hired her, and the whole thing was and so during COVID they shut down their cafe, so they're still receiving roughly, I think it was $1.5 million a year in donations, and they weren't feeding anybody for like 3 or 4 years.
Whoa.
And they were just collecting funds. Well, what they ended up doing is they wanted to buy the House of Louis, which is, an old Chinese restaurant.
Yeah.
In Chinatown. They actually bought it, but they didn't have the money. Like, something happened that she suddenly got, "You're out of here," and it was obviously all very covered up, and they were like It's so funny because the press were like, "Well, that deal fell through, and but they're looking for new digs." You know how the local press is. Especially like the Willamette Week. We're looking for new digs, bro. And the fact is, they did buy that place. And I think something happened. I don't know if people were stealing money. But they kicked Kat Mahoney's ass to the curb, very quietly. "Oh, she's moving on now."
Yes, to be with her family.
And so anyway, but they do own this property. Even the press says the deal fell through. If you look on the property, because I'm good at research. In Multnomah County, it's really easy to find out who owns property in Multnomah County.
Yep.
And they own the House of Louis. So when Willamette Week and KGW is claiming that they didn't they don't have, that deal, no, it did, they bought that place. I think what happened is that all of a sudden it was probably $300,000-$500,000 remodel, I imagine. And I think probably what happened is they expected to have that money. I mean, you don't go into a situation like that without knowing that you have... Like you don't buy a place like that and be like, "Okay, well, we have to do remodels. So how much is this going to work?" You're going to bring in vendors and contractors to tell you how much it's going to cost to remodel it.
Right.
So, you're going to take that into consideration. So I don't know if money went missing. I don't know if it's a situation where they were so stupid that they didn't realize they had to raise money as well for remodeling.
Not that stupid. They may be stupid, but not that way.
Right, exactly. And so, she got quietly ushered out the back door, and, and the funny thing is that they talked to the guy that was the money guy, the treasurer guy, or the finance guy. The first thing he said was, "There's no malfeasance here." I'm just going to say that off the top. And it's just like...
I have all this money in my pocket, but it's not stolen.
And this is what these nonprofit... So the thing with the socialized property or social property, whatever the hell they're calling it now.
No, they changed the name. They take a little heat and they switch.
They switched it off now.
So it
okay.
always moves and
right.
You can't quite keep up with it.
But they want to give nonprofits. They're going to give money to nonprofits so they can own this property, the properties that they're investing in. So it's just like these supposedly socialist, they're just like, "We're just out to help people." They're getting rich off this shit, and it's just. It's
the amounts of money, you and I both are familiar with Form 990s.
Yes, love those.
It's probably not constitutional, but we ought to, in the perfect world, anybody who puts anything up online and is trying to get money from you has to post on that same publication their Form 990,
yes.
the most recent one.
Yes.
And the 990 it kind of looks like an income tax form.
Oh, it is. It's long form. There's a bunch of stuff.
And if you know how to read them,
and it's hard to read them.
You can kind of parse out some incredible stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But
I'm always
assets
amazed.
versus
They always have
huge
a ton of assets.
The amount that goes out
why
as
does
contributions, zilch.
Yeah.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
zilch.
Yeah. And Oregon Food Bank.
Oh, they're the worst.
They have like $150 million in assets. What does that mean?
Well, it means a lot of political clout.
Absolutely.
Their former director, who engineered the whole thing, is Tina Kotek.
Mm-hmm.
And, if she gets primaried out, she'll probably go back and run it again.
Yeah.
Or find some other kind of nonprofit. They have to tell you in a kind of the numbers are very gross.
Yes.
They're not
exact.
And they never tell you where the money is coming from.
No. And that's why people do nonprofit stuff, because it's a money laundry. It's a money laundering
It's a beautiful
scheme.
money laundry.
Yeah, and it's just like you don't have to claim it to the government, where you're getting your money from, how you're using the money. You can just kind of put it all into
one big pot.
Right.
And it's clean all of a sudden.
And, and it's just like, well, how does Oregon Food Bank put these $50,000 or $100,000 marketing things about DEI sort of driven policy and stuff like that? And it's just like, you're not supposed to be able to do that as a nonprofit. So what they do is they have these offshoots. So a nonprofit is a 501c3.
Yeah.
If you have a 501c4,
you bet.
Then you can
you can mess with politics all you want.
So a lot of what these nonprofits do is they get a 501c4, and then they just shuffle a little money over to that, and then all of a sudden you're just like, oh, well, we're political action committee, so I mean that's okay, right? And they name it something else, and they just funnel. I mean, it's RICO level, Enron level fraud is what it is.
Except it's not fraud. It's because they have a very big hand in writing the laws.
Yes.
And they're not real shy about using that power.
Now,
it is the fourth branch of government, particularly in a relatively poor state like Oregon.
Yeah.
It is a powerful branch that is overseen not at all.
No.
Nobody is.
That's the whole point of nonprofits is you're not supposed to be able to look under the curtain,
Well, give you a very small example, and this goes back to year or two. Well, this brings us back around to the arts tax.
Mm-hmm.
One of the beneficiaries of the arts tax, this is a murky Machiavellian story, is the regional arts.
Kill that, and we're gonna go to another one.
Well, I'm going to pace myself.
Okay,
here, so.
all right.
Anyway,
I'll give you a smaller pour next time.
They
I'm gonna go into this one.
They are a 501c3 getting arts tax money, and the minute it disappears into the regional arts council, there is no accountability whatsoever.
Yep.
They will not tell you anything about the internal working of this organization.
Absolutely.
Which is, in terms of theft, it's pretty small scale.
Yeah.
As big theft goes in a state like Oregon, but it's the idea that you take public money from idiots like me who pay the arts tax, shift it over into a 501c3, then it disappears.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Yeah, it's just
and they dole
magic.
it out however they want
Yeah.
to whoever they want,
Yeah.
and they will never tell you anything beyond who got the money.
Well, you were telling me,
and they don't really have to do that.
You were telling me in places like Philly, where you lived and worked, in Detroit and Chicago, they would use nonprofits to, like the mafia would use nonprofits to launder money, right?
Well, if you've got a sloppy legal setup like 501c3s,
yeah,
you have to expect that the criminal, smart crooks
Right.
are going to take advantage of it.
Absolutely. Why not?
Well, it's there. Why? You're too stupid. That's the ultimate defense of every thief. If you were smarter, I wouldn't have been able to steal from you.
It's so.
You've got it coming to you.
It's funny because like Angela and I formed a nonprofit that was like a neighborhood thing, and we raised like $2,000. And I mean, it was nothing, and we spent it all towards. We did a thing where we gave turkeys to people in the neighborhood that were during Thanksgiving, or gave them funds, for families that couldn't afford like a Thanksgiving dinner. I mean, we were doing stuff like that. And so we get a call from the DOJ at some point about our finances.
Your $2,000.
Yeah. So we've made a lot of enemies. I mean, we have a lot more friends than enemies in this town. But the enemies, they're of a certain ilk.
Yeah.
And maybe there's probably one of them that was connected some way to like the DOJ. It's like, oh, you need to look into these guys. And it's just like, and I told the guy, it's like, why are you looking at? It's just like, I mean, there was a mutual aid supposed nonprofit in this neighborhood that during COVID, right at the beginning of COVID, where they raised all this money supposedly for like
COVID,
give food to families that whatever, and so and it was some of the people in the neighborhood who actually were on the anarchists that were on our neighborhood association for a while there. That was those were crazy days.
Oh man, I remember that very well.
Yeah, and
the guy in the bikini who was running for a spot. Yeah, that really took
Lucy. Lucy, who was a violent criminal, tried to assault me on multiple occasions. Honestly, he's a 6'1" dude, and would dress in like, the sailor bikini costume,
Yeah.
and go to like neighborhood association meetings dressed like that.
Those were the good old days.
And I remember this one time, like a couple cops had come to like talk about public safety or something.
Stuff, yeah.
And like, they were just screaming at these poor cops. They're just like, well, I mean, a couple of people in the thing asked us to come. We could leave if you want us to, kind of thing. And, we went. Angela and I went outside and talked to him because they were like, this is good. I'm out, And so I went outside. We went outside and talked to him. And it's like, and one of them was a woman, and she said, "Well, I'm a lesbian. It's not like, it's not like I hate trans people or anything like that, or like I'm a bigot, or it's just." And the other guy was just like, yeah, I mean, this is Portland, right? And that's what it is. This is what Portland is. I mean, you're seeing it now with like, the cop hatred with like Samir Canal and Halita Mahio. And, Teacher Tiffany. The interesting thing about these people is they have no history. If you look into them, they're ghosts online. And so these people are like, these are younger people, and there's no history of these people anywhere.
And all they had to do was scare up 25, not even 25.
In a little district.
That's all they had to do, and now they are on the chief, and it is the supreme body. The mayor doesn't count in Portland anymore. The mayor is nobody.
I call him Mayor Milquetoast. He literally just sits there like a limp dick. He looks like a limp dick.
He has no real power.
I remember like when you'd watch or you'd be at the the city council meetings and the mayor would lead them.
Yeah.
He doesn't say a fucking word at these things. He just
can't.
sits there.
He's not empowered.
He has zero power. You needed someone, and I'm not saying Renee Gonzalez was the guy because Renee Gonzalez is a little soft too. I love Renee. Sorry, Renee. But you needed a tough guy.
They would have figured it. He could have seemed tough, but the people who were in office on the council, they understand, and they would have understood very quickly that this guy can shoot his mouth off, but he can't do anything.
Right.
And the council can do whatever it damn well pleases if you can find 7, and the socialists have 4 votes.
Well, now they have 6. So there's 2 that are socialist adjacent. It was really interesting. I mean,
oh really?
I have to give it to Angelita Murillo because she didn't announce that she was a socialist until after she.
Oh, details.
Yeah, I mean, we knew she was, but she didn't announce. It was very, and then she showed up at the DSA thing or whatever it was. Another one of these stupid, idiotic protests. I mean, it's so funny now. They have to combine all the protests. So it's just like anti-Trump, anti-Tesla, free Palestine, anti-police, ACAB. They have to have like 5 or 6 of them there just to get enough people out to them. Just to get like, I don't know, 3 dozen, 4 dozen people out to them.
That's enough to get elected to the city council.
It really is.
That's the whole point. It was engineered to do that. That's
and you're right.
Nobody can seem to understand in this town. It was designed to produce the result that we now have.
I mean, I have to take my hat off to these people. They figured it out.
Julia Meyer is a genius.
Yes.
You've never seen anything about her in the press.
No.
She doesn't give interviews. She doesn't respond to mail.
Mm-mm.
She is the quintessential insider.
Yep.
But she bounced from City Club, from Coalition of Communities of Color, to City Club, to the Charter Commission, to the government of the city of Portland, where she was the manager of the transition. And she's still in there running the place through.
Oh, yeah.
And nobody can get to her. Nobody can get a word out of this woman. It's astonishing to me.
I was always really fascinated at the beginning because it was just like, remember like in the first like, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, it was just like this city council love fest. It was like, they'd show up to the meeting, they'd all be all smiles. And like, yeah, we own this fucking city, motherfuckers, and just like, and there was just like, oh, we just love everybody, and Keith Wilson is great, and like, oh, look, oh, we new government, bitches, and they're taking selfies, and they're all smiling, and it's just
that's over now.
Yeah, it's all over now, but remember how they were talking about, I mean, it was like ad nauseum. It was just like every single one of them was like, well, we're really into accessibility and transparency. So let's concentrate on transparency and accessibility. And they have been completely opposite of that. Completely opposite in every way. You can't get a hold of any of these fuckers.
No.
No.
Why should they talk to you? You are not part of the 25%
right.
that they must hold on to in any event. They don't care about 30%.
No.
They don't care about, they have the core, which are crazy enough to go and vote.
Absolutely.
And that's it.
Right.
And you don't count.
Mm-mm.
And it's designed this way.
Richard, we're basically Proud Boys. I mean, that's what we are. Like Well, you saw the whole thing with what Angela released the other day about with Angelita Merhijo calling her a proud boy. It's just like I think I've come across a couple proud boys, but we've met like thousands of people in
I
Portland.
wonder if she's ever actually in the flesh, so to speak, met a proud boy.
Angelita?
Do they even exist? Well, anybody.
They won't come into town.
Where the hell are they?
I'm always so amazed. Like, you know, this was one thing that was maddening about Nathan Vasquez, and so.
Wait a minute. You're running down.
I'm not trying to run down, but it was like one of these things. He had to throw the. Look, I'm progressive. Like even Renee Gonzalez had to be like, I'm a Democrat. What are you? I'm a Democrat. You know, they had to do this thing. You know, and even Nathan had to do it. So he was always like, well, I've prosecuted both Proud Boys and Antifa. You know, and it was just like, well, Tiny Tozy, crazy name. You know, I don't know this guy. I just know him from the press. He's a thug. You know, he's beating people up, and he's a great big, you know, Samoan guy, I think. And you know, I mean, they threw 8 years at this guy for assaulting a couple people, and I mean, they haven't done shit to any of the like. Oh, we'll give him 3 days in jail, and then you'll get out in 1. You know, to like, you know, some of these crazy Antifa people who show up to like the Society Hotel with like, you know, loaded guns. You know, because, oh, we're just like banging on a drum here, and it's just like you got the masked dudes with their you know, it's just like wow.
Yeah.
And we were
they're the enforcement wing of the machine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get out of line, and we'll come and kick in your front door and
absolutely
take a poop in the middle of your reception area.
Well, piss. Yeah. Well, like my dad used to say, well, piss in your post toasties.
Speaking of which, maybe we ought to taste another.
Yeah. Well, I started off on this one. I'm going to pull the drapes open because I want a little bit. I think now that the sun
it's getting a little funereal in here.
Yes,
oh, okay. There we go.
Is that right in your face? It's right in your face.
No. It's fine.
It's okay.
I'll get a can.
God, it's just.
Can I put this back into the bottle? Because I don't want to get completely out of control.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I overpoured.
You've got a long way to go
I overpoured
here,
for you. I overpoured. Sorry. And it's okay to do this because it's alcohol and it kills all
antiseptic.
It's antiseptic.
That didn't taste like any anesthetic I've ever tried.
No. So the next one I've been drinking.
I liked Mercurochrome for a while there.
This is see the cameras here. This is Joseph A. Magnus. This is a really good bourbon.
It's a magnificent bottle.
It's a magnificent bottle. It's a beautiful, you know,
a work of art.
Absolutely, old school Kentucky bourbon. It's actually Kentucky Indiana bourbon, so I think it's like right on the border there. Very tasty stuff. It's pretty spendy, but
isn't the biggest bourbon distillery in Indiana?
I don't know if that's true.
Like the one that makes Buffalo Trace and all.
No, that's Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
That's Kentucky.
All right.
Where is your glass?
You took it away from me.
Did I? Oh, it's right
there.
It
is.
There. Sorry.
Okay, good.
I guess the drinking's already.
Just a little sippy
A
boo.
little sippy. Is that
That's
enough?
a good one. Yes.
All
Thank
right,
you very
perfect.
much. My liver thanks you. Ooh, great nose.
Yeah. It's very like oaky, leathery, sort of old school
Oaky leather.
Kentucky bourbon.
I haven't sniffed a lot of leather recently.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of fire.
Yes. Well, it's 100 proof. For a bourbon, it's very peppery. I love that about it.
It almost has a little bit of a rye kind of thing going on.
Absolutely.
That's really good.
Yeah.
It has flavor.
Yes.
As opposed to just being kind of like putting your mouth on a jet engine's outlet and hitting the afterburner. I like this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I think number one is still my favorite, though.
Yes.
This is okay. I wouldn't kick it out of bed, as they say.
Right, right.
Yeah, that's very good.
Indeed.
It doesn't have as much. Now, I'm trying to go back in my memory to our previous episodes.
Yes.
But it doesn't have as much backwash. What's the
term?
Like
the finish? It's sort of
the
like
finish.
Yeah.
Not as much finish.
No, it's
it
not.
Kind of just goes down and that's it.
It doesn't burn a lot, but you still feel the effects of it on your mouth a little bit. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
So there's some tingling there.
Yeah.
The thing about bourbon is like there's a whole experience. There's like the smell, obviously.
Yeah.
And then the initial introduction into your mouth, and you usually taste it on the tip of your tongue, and then you push it back into the back of your mouth, and then you drink it. And through that process, there's different experiences with that. And then the finish is sort of like it's not only just about the taste of it or the sort of fire that comes through your mouth. It's also like how your body sort of reacts to it.
Right.
Which is very interesting. It's probably why the Native Americans called it firewater. And why they became addicted to it, because it's very very engaging.
It has a kind of a psychedelic edge to it.
It does.
You know what I mean?
There's a psychological reaction to it a little bit.
Yeah. And then you get the kind of the hit of the alcohol, and suddenly you either want to fight everybody you can see, or you're the happiest guy who ever lived.
I've never been a mean drunk. Have you ever been a mean drunk? I've
been a mean drunk?
Yeah, have you ever been a mean drunk?
No,
that's not me.
Afraid not. No.
But I've known people who are mean drunk.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, where they just lose it.
I knew a guy who was a sweetie.
Yeah.
But he would get a couple of, and he would go and he would drink in very tough bars, get a couple of hits, and he was there to fight.
Yeah.
and he would be successful in fighting.
Oh, yeah.
Not necessarily winning.
Well, growing up in Montana, that's how it was. It was like you had your... I remember, the university I went to was the University of Montana, which is in Missoula, western Montana. And, it's not it's one of the largest, quote-unquote, cities in Montana. It's got 75,000 people in it. 15,000 of those are students, right? So, but they had the university, and then you'd cross the Clark Fork River over a bridge, a walking bridge, and then you could get into downtown where all the bars were. And it would be like one of these situations where, and there was in this area, there was probably, 20 bars.
Mm.
And they're all kind of in the old buildings and stuff. Pretty cool area. But it was you'd come out of the bar, and in Montana, they closed at 2 a.m. Literally. Not like here where a lot of bars close at 11 on a Friday. But, it was they would all stay open until 2 a.m. And then, at the end of the night, if you're, leaving, there'd be, people fighting in the streets. You just walk by them, just boom! People beating the shit out of each other. You're just wow. Yeah, I've never seen a bar fight in Oregon.
No. No, I can't say as I have either. I've seen some people I would like to, if I could sneak up from behind and just whack them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd do it.
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah.
No.
No, there's, I mean, it's just not. Yeah.
We're too polite here.
Well,
we're
there's
sneaky, nasty, mean, backstabbing,
but to your
nut-cutting
face,
people in
you'll be
Oregon,
like,
but we don't
polite.
like doing it up
well,
front.
we don't like conflict, face-to-face conflict.
We
say
have conversations. Pow! Open your pie hole and I'm going to sock it right in it.
I remember there was a bar that we go to in college in Missoula, and we'd show up at 2 PM.
That's a good time to start drinking.
And they had pool tables, and then we'd play pool, and we'd order 151 rum and cokes in pitchers, pitchers of it.
Oh man!
And just drink that stuff.
Oh my god!
I can't even. I mean, and they would serve that to us.
Gladly, I'm sure. The bar must have been ankle deep in vomit by the time it closed.
I remember and they'd always have these huge bouncers, right? And I remember, I don't know what happened. Still to this day, I don't know what happened. But at some point, I don't know, I probably got mouthy with someone. And at that time...
Jeff? No
never.
way, man.
I was 130 pounds soaking wet. So this guy, like, grabs me by my head and is, like, pulling me out. Just like, I'm just, like, getting yanked out. This guy's, like, probably a defensive lineman for the football team. And it's just, like, wrestling me out and just throws me out in the street, It's just like, okay.
I don't think you can say you've been properly alive as a guy unless you actually have been physically thrown out of a bar. I lack in that department, unfortunately.
Well, you grew up in like you lived in sort of lived in cities, I mean, and not that doesn't happen in cities, but I think I don't know. There's something about like small town things that happen that people are just like, people are a little crazier. I don't know what it is.
Well,
maybe it's because there's fewer people.
Particularly when you're in a cowboy place like Montana. Or, I don't know much about Idaho, but I suspect Idaho's the same way.
Oh, yeah.
You got these big strapping boys with Winchester 75s in the back window of their pickups, and they got big belt buckles on.
Absolutely.
Well, you're going to get into trouble with them. For sure.
I was kind of, I was a musician and like in bands, and I would travel and play music at the different towns and cities around there. Usually,
did you ever play in a bar that had chickenware in front of the
No, unfortunately, no.
You didn't go that far.
But there was some rough places for sure, and I mean it was really interesting, like. The way people would treat you, it was sort of like you would like people in small towns in America, they don't see a lot of music or art. So you come to their town and you're gonna play music. They're just like like 150 people to show up. It's like, oh, we're having a band here tonight. A band, and you'd show up and there'd be like all these people, and it was pretty amazing. I mean, it was a great time.
That's why they had religion back in those.
Right.
They
have the big tents.
Guy would put up a tent, and you'd come in, and you could get emotional and emotive and pass out and flop around on the floor and speak in tongues, and it was kind of your emotional. That was about it. I
remember the first time I ever in a band played on a stage. Like a lot of times it was like a party or something like you'd be playing. You'd be in the corner or whatever. And I was on a stage. And we were playing. It was the first song. I was always kind of the lead guitar player guy. And I broke into my solo, right? And like, I don't know, 8 bars into my solo, this guy comes up and goes like, fuck yeah! Just like... And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, like I couldn't, like I was just, oh,
Did
thanks.
you give him an autograph?
I don't remember. I don't remember a lot of my youth. A lot of drugs and alcohol back then.
That could be selective memory.
Yes.
Yes. Well, I'm an expert on that myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although there are times, when your guard is kind of down, like as you're drifting off into sleep, all of a sudden, it's replay time. You can't keep it out of your sort of the front of your memory.
Right.
And then, oh my God, I did it. I know I did it.
Right.
I don't think I did it, but I know I did it.
I know I did it.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
And it's sort of the thing with men. It's just sort of like we are very controlled by our
testosterone.
And and it's just like, oh God. I mean, in a lot of ways, I don't know how I survived my 20s or even 30s. You know what I mean? It was just like every day I was gambling with my life.
Well, it's because you're immortal.
Right.
At that age, you're just not going to die.
Right.
It's for
Unless
other
you're
people,
really
not for me.
Yeah.
And but the guy thing, not to wrench it back into Oregon politics or anything. Well, yeah, to wrench it back. It's run by women, top to bottom.
Believe me, I like women, and there's plenty of smart, powerful, interesting, intelligent women.
But should the whole show be women?
But the women who are running it, I mean,
well, they're just being women.
Yeah,
I think they fight in a very
yes, they do.
They fight in a very different way, but they do fight.
Oh well, women are very aggressive. They're just like men. Like if they're men's aggression comes out in like, okay, I'm going to punch you in the face. I'm going to kick you on the ground. I'm going to talk shit to you, and then afterwards we're like, we cool. Women are like, it's like, I'm going to destroy your reputation. That's what women's aggression comes out as, like reputation
very,
destruction.
very big. Men, I don't think cared an awful lot about that.
And I've taken a lot of hits on my reputation. I just, frankly, I don't care.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's kind of one of those things, like, I don't care. Say what you will about me. One of the wisest people I've ever met said, it is none of your business what other people's opinions of you are. It's none of your business.
It's true.
And it frees you.
Yeah.
It frees you of the thought, like, I have to be worried about that. And I tell people all that, like, all the time, that I'm really worried about that, and like really like, oh God, like what's going to happen if I like come out and support this thing, or I'm a business owner, I'm going to get, they're going to come after me. It's just like, you know what? Just be true to yourself and tell the truth about what you're experiencing, and they'll come after you, and it might be painful a little bit, but it ultimately doesn't matter. We are the third stone from the sun. It's ultimately just a bunch of monkeys, fucking with each other and throwing shit at each other. I mean, that's what it is.
How come there are no people
around
who will pick the fleas off you?
Right. Well, there should be, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
you see those films of bonobos, or our nearest relatives, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And they're always picking at each other. They're picking.
Right.
And
but they're eating the bugs.
Yeah. Well, they're nourishing. What the hell? I mean, we don't have that kind of socialization.
No.
That, here I'm going to get into deep doo-doo and probably embarrass myself. But we need to have some kind of, you can't institutionalize that stuff.
Right.
But, I don't know. But women operate on a very different wavelength than men do. Anybody who has been married as often as I have.
Absolutely. No, it's
knows that for sure.
Right. I mean, and that's the way it should be, actually. You know? I mean, I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot from women in my life. You know, I mean, if you're a male and all you're learning or all you're experiencing is male energy, you're gonna be like antisocial and like sociopathic. You know, I mean, there's an aspect, and it's the same thing with women. That if women do not experience connection with the opposite sex, they're going to be the same way. It's going to show up and it's going to present itself in different ways. But it's just there's a real thing about the dichotomy of male and female.
Yeah, and
there's the interchange, and that's what Oregon politics is failing at. It's just like we have all these women in politics who are not good representations of women, frankly. They're like these.
Now you've gotten yourself into real trouble.
No, but I'm just saying, it's just like they're not, a lot of them aren't mothers. They aren't, the professional class progressives that are women and that have no idea how to interact with or care for anybody, really. And they're just, it becomes like sociopathic. I mean,
well, I can't say that I agree with you, but nobody in the state of Oregon will talk about this. It is not fit for discussion.
Right. You're not supposed to say
nobody can approach Janelle Bynum on the basis of, okay, one thing we'll all agree on, more or less, is she is a female.
Right.
And she's not a guy. Ron Wyden is fundamentally, well, I'm sorry I picked him. That's not fair to him or the discussion.
You want to be fair to Ron Wyden? Okay.
Well, he's a guy.
Yeah, he is.
Keith Wilson, he's a guy.
Yeah.
He operates in a Wilson, it's kind of interesting.
Wilson is an enigma to me.
He kind of operates in the female mode.
He does. He's submissive.
Submissive, but only to a point.
Right. No, it's not complete submission.
There's a subtext. There's always subtext. There.
Yeah, he plays the nice guy role. I'm the nice guy. Sort of like the guy that's every girl's friend but never gets laid.
Well, I think if Wilson was sitting in your chair, I wouldn't ask him about the laid part. But
right.
I would say, in those moments when you kind of reflect on your recent history and things you did that you should have done or you shouldn't have done, there was a moment, and it was right at the beginning of the city council, when they could not agree on who the president ought to be.
That was so painful.
6-6. The genius.
Let's do another vote.
Let's do
another vote.
And they were stuck. And their answer was, let's go into a back room and cut a deal.
Right.
The public meeting law
screw that. Screw you.
Yeah. And and he was sitting in the audience. He was sitting right in front of them. Why he didn't stand up and say two things. One, I read the city charter, you can read the city charter, and you're tied.
Yeah.
So here's my vote.
Yes.
And then turn around to the city attorney and say, you're fired.
Yep.
Get out of here.
Yep.
Because the city attorney had gone through this agonizing, hyper-legalistic, it said that.
And he was wrong,
really
too.
That.
He was wrong,
too. Of course he was wrong. But
it was
he
just
knew
like
he was who he was actually working for.
Yeah, he did. Absolutely.
But I would have to say that Keith probably will reach the end of his one term in office and look back on that moment and say, yep, I should have grabbed the nettle. Because what were they going to do? Were they going to say, get out of here? We're not taking your word for this. Get out of here.
It would have fallen apart.
Have a crisis off the bat.
It's like the Sex Pistols playing a gig, and like all of a sudden things just start. If they don't keep the beat going, it just completely falls apart, right, and goes into chaos. So, I mean, if he stood up at that point and just said, I'm going to be the deciding vote because that's what currently the charter says.
Yeah, pretty unmistakable.
And so I'm going to do that, and like, you
don't have to like it.
You don't have to like it.
That's the way it's going to be.
But I'm gonna go for Canis Avalos, or I'm gonna go for whoever. And he didn't speak at all during that.
Nope, not at all. And he thanked them he wimpily thanked them for permission to talk. This is not George Washington type stuff.
No,
you know.
It's not even Vera Cat stuff. It's not even Bud Clark stuff. It's just like, I'm going to be a big fucking pussy. And I'm just going to sit back and just like, well, this is my homeless plan. Do you guys want to give me a thumbs up? You know, we're still in our... You know, it's just like, oh my God, dude.
And the council understands this, and their routine in terms of doing business, if you watch, you know, God, it's like putting bamboo slits under your fingernails. But if you watch, they're not dealing with the mayor. They're dealing with the city administrator.
Absolutely.
Who actually works for the mayor. Not that anybody acknowledges that. You know, it's like the beginning of the American Republic. There are certain things that you just can't write down in great detail. Even as great a document as the Constitution is, you have John Marshall who comes along and says, well, this is what the Supreme Court's going to do.
Right.
We're going to tell you whether or not that law is constitutional, like it or not.
Yeah.
And he got away with it.
Yes.
And now we have a Supreme Court.
We have a Supreme Court. Yeah.
So you have to step out and mold the situation to your liking.
Because, I mean, it was like they said, a brand new government. You have to take your place within that government. The mayor should have a major voice within this government. And
he's the only person who has a majority vote.
Yes.
And he's the only 50% guy we got.
I mean, who was the moron who decided you're going to do an even number of... You know, it's just like, no one does that.
I think that was Julia Myers' one slip up. She didn't think that through quite well enough. I mean, they had to have 4 districts.
Right.
Well, you have 5.
Yeah, because what do? It's just like, if you did 5, then you have to have like 2 per district. I guess you could do 5 and then 3 per district to get an odd number, but that's like 15 of these motherfuckers. And it's just like...
She and other people on the commission knew for a fact that Baltimore had tried it.
Yes.
And it didn't work. But you will never get that on a ballot in the city to do away with because there are too many people making too much money.
And you know, there's 2 city council people I respect. One is Zimmerman.
Can't keep his mouth shut.
Right. Well, he's the one that's just like, are we going to get anything done here? Because, like, to your point, and you predicted this, is like, it's going to take them 6 months to find out where the goddamn bathrooms are. And that's what they're doing. They're just flailing around trying to figure out what this government is. I mean, we're 3 months in. And so, Zimmerman's one of the only ones like, let's get some, I mean, you know, we have a crisis out there. So I like that about him. The other one I like is Loretta Smith. And even though I don't agree with Loretta Smith's stuff so much, she was the one who was like actually saying like the mayor should have the tie vote.
Begging the guy
and
to step up to the plate.
Was, you know, shoving her aside. It was just like, they don't want a mayor they don't want a mayor at all. I mean, they want a figurehead mayor, and
Well, they've got it.
And then Keith Wilson agreed with that. He has zero power. He, and like you said, if he would have stood up that first day and said, "I'm the mayor," I'm and the charter as it currently is states this, so I am going to decide.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have been doing anything.
And he should immediately have announced that he is going to try to put forward a ballot measure to give the mayor a veto.
Yes, that was so
because
ridiculous.
This council will run hog wild. And there is no... The whole idea of, at least American-style democracy, is you can go so far, but you can't go beyond that point.
Yeah.
There's got to be somebody who can stop you.
Yes, absolutely.
And
checks and balances.
We are going to find out as this whole drama unfolds in City Hall that they're going to test the limit, and they're not going to find it.
Right.
So you have a situation in which Constance Avalos with your big hoop earrings and the other socialists can talk about we want to seize control of the entire market for low-income housing in the city of Portland because we have made it impossible to build that kind of housing.
To build housing.
We
we have
ruined that market, and now we are going to own it.
As someone who is in the build industry in Portland, there's no work being done here. All of our work is Southern Oregon, it's Idaho, it's out east on 84. There's no work here.
Well, you go down through Hillsborough, and they're building like crazy in Hillsborough. Once you're inside the metro, the arbitrary line of saving our farms, it's a vibrant economy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and we wonder why Portland's still lagging behind. It's because of all this. I mean, we had a builder friend of ours who was involved. They had a client who needed to remodel a bathroom, and the permitting to remodel a bathroom, $5,000.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, what?
Yeah.
And it's just, so the permitting process in the city takes way too long. It's way too expensive. And so no one's
biased for nonprofits building.
And no one's building here.
Yeah.
And they wonder why, scratching their head, why isn't anyone building here? It's because you fucking assholes have said for years that developers are rich, greedy, sociopaths. So, and you've passed policy that has indicated that to them. And so it's just like, I'll just go build out in Washington County, or I'll build out in Clackamas County because, I'm not interested in this. Why would I do that?
They're not charities.
Right.
I would love to know what the actual net worth post-COVID, post the socialists getting control of the low end of the market. I'd really like to know what is the actual net worth of the Goodman family. Or the Schnitzers.
Oh, the Schnitzers are really
it can't be anything close. It's not high by real estate standards.
It's not high by I don't know, Mark Cuban
Wouldn't it be interesting
standards or Jordan Schnitzer has one of the largest art collections in North America. I mean, his collection is huge. But, they don't control Snitzer. Well, it's not even Snitzer Steel anymore. They sold it out like in the 90s. Like the family is
coasting, kind of coasting,
and they're
you don't want to coast in a city like Portland.
No, and
really do not.
They're invested into downtown property, which has just been devalued by almost 60%.
It's worthless.
Yes, and same with Goodman.
I mean, the Goodmans were going to take a quadrant of downtown, kind of in that Old Town area, and they were going to smash it down.
Yep.
And build it back up.
Yep.
And you can argue until the cows come home, well, it wouldn't have been all that great, but it would have been something.
Yep.
As opposed to a human feral sink. Which is what it is now. It's worthless. Worthless.
And they sucked all the vibrancy out of it. Like, all of the... I mean, I don't know if you remember, but, like, if you were here at the time, but, like, lower southwest Portland near Burnside, that was a huge, like, art district.
Yeah.
It was, like, there was several art galleries. They're all gone.
Didn't make it.
Because it was just like, we're going to jack up, we're going to jack up your rents by this amount. I mean, all that vibrancy, that all the art. I mean, like, there was a music store. Was it Apple Music that was down there? They're gone. Like all these old, there's a record store that recently we're just like, we can't survive down here. I mean, all the great aspects of what Portland was like downtown, which they had developed back in the 90s, it was like, well, let's start putting art galleries down here, and let's start, let's rebuild this, and they did it, and within 25 years, it was gone.
Well, COVID was the coup de grace, but I don't think it would have developed much happening even without COVID.
Is someone who was in the relocation business. It happened 3 years before COVID. It was they were leaving in droves.
Yeah.
They couldn't make it down there anymore.
Well, the thing that socialists don't particularly like to think about is people can leave. Exactly. It's a free country in terms of
you're not forced
I could go
to be
Idaho
there.
Tomorrow.
Right.
I don't have to get an
Absolutely.
exit permit like the USSR.
Right, exactly.
Too bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can vote with your feet. And one of the problems.
Are you ready for?
Let me just finish this one.
Okay. Yeah.
One of the problems, and a very good friend of mine points this out because she lives not far from here. But what she has noticed over 10 or 15 years on her street is that the family type people, the people who were slightly to the right of insane, they are leaving.
Yes.
Families go to Tennessee.
Yes.
Families go to Idaho. Families go out into the far suburbs.
I know at least 50
and
people.
And what replaces them are the kind of people who are ruining Portland.
Yes.
The true believers.
Right.
Kind of grifting along.
The far left,
into
I'm scared.
Whatever little minority thing is going.
Yeah, the people that are, I'm afraid to be in Dallas, Texas, swap. So I'm going to, they're swapping people who create wealth for people who suck off the system, basically, is what they're doing.
And it's very easy to exploit the system.
Yes, it is.
Very easy to do that. You can live not at a high level, but at a high subsistence level.
Yep.
You can live on the government tit indefinitely.
Absolutely. You're not going to be comfortable. It's going to be hand to mouth, but you'll survive.
This is the problem with the Whale, which is right down your street over on Gleason. 96 bonded, supported by your tax dollars and mine.
Yep.
Built by a quasi non-profit. Nobody will ever tell you whether or not Reliant Northwest is a 501c3 or not. And I've sent any number of queries, and I never get a response.
Yeah.
But okay, it's in the hands of Catholic Charities and another big ethnic nonprofit. I guarantee you, and again, they'll not respond to this, but they're not paying system development fees.
No.
They're not paying property tax.
They're not paying
utility
connection fees. They're not paying any of that stuff.
96 apartments for people who are 60% of the poverty, the official census poverty level, which is a fictional number.
Yes.
That nobody respects. It's a fiction.
Right.
These are people who are getting in good, SNAP, subsidies, tax write-offs, tax rebates.
Right.
Census doesn't count any of that stuff.
No.
So it's a huge distorted piece of the real estate market.
Absolutely.
Social housing.
Right.
And then Candace and Mr. Green come along and say, well, we don't have enough of it.
We don't have enough of it. Let's build some projects. Let's do some Pruitt ego stuff, I mean, it's just like, let's just go full bore.
They have no sense of any history of anything that is
of what that entails.
Idea. Anyway, let's drink some more.
Yes. So this is Penelope Weeded, which I love I love the entire Penelope brand. It's really good. They do multiple things. They do a toasted. They do a full proof. They do. We'll try another one down there, which is really amazing. Actually, it's a completely different.
Oh
situation.
yeah, I sniffed that one before we started,
and so this is fabulous stuff. Before we drink, I might turn some lighting on because I think it's getting a little dark in here.
Yeah.
We'll see what it looks like with the camera. Yeah, it's getting a little dark. We'll go too light.
There we go.
There we go. Yes.
I should have brought my sunglasses.
Yeah, I'll turn it down a little bit. That's a little bright. But this is no different than being in Tinker Tavern. It's pretty dark in there, too. I like dark bars. I hate going into bars where they're too bright, and you're just like, and they have like 16 televisions on the, showing 15 different sporting games, and you're just like, this is not why I come to a bar.
You and I kind of dropped in, it kind of almost as a civic duty. There was a bar down on Gleason, we won't name it.
Yes.
But he was trying to start a bar, basically.
Yeah.
And the lights were way too bright, and there were too goddamn many television sets going, and it just wasn't, wasn't a bar.
It wasn't happening.
It wasn't?
Yeah, it
didn't have that kind of thing.
It seemed like a weird little, cafe almost, kind of, where you'd have sandwiches, for lunch or something. It just wasn't nice guy, Australian guy. Is that still going? Is that still...
Still there. Still there. He's pounding away at it.
That's a rough place to... I mean, there's been, I don't know, since I've lived here for 10 years in this neighborhood, that's been...
a death location.
That's been 5 or 6 different things.
Yeah. Nothing lasts. Yeah. Isn't that interesting about real estate?
It is.
Some places make it and some don't.
What's interesting about that place is it's like, it's a neighborhood. There's not many bars over there.
No.
But I think people like you live on the other side of 82nd. You come over on the other side of 82nd to drink.
Yes.
And imbibe.
Yes.
Yeah.
One has to choose one's little home. Right. In Britain, they call it your local.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like being admitted to a kind of a club.
Yes.
And
hi, Finnegan. How you doing?
Finnegan.
So this is what we call his brain ball. And we call it the brain ball because you can put kibble in it, and he rolls it around and gets the kibble out.
Gets it out, yeah.
And it supposedly helps with their brain, like their intelligence.
Well, you're talking about a dog.
I know. And
They
so
know what they need
every
to
night,
know, but that's about it.
he's smart enough to know that at some point during the night, I bring the ball to Dad, and he'll fill it up. And he's trying to get me to fill it up. I'll fill it up for you later, okay?
He doesn't understand that.
He doesn't understand later.
Later is not dog language.
It's like having it's like having 3-year-olds forever for like 15 years.
Yeah. They can never grow up and
Right.
keep you as
Right.
an old hobbling
No.
derelict
Right.
with no brain power left.
Absolutely.
No,
Just
no.
like, no.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, live and live. Here's to you.
Absolutely.
This is good juice.
Yeah, I really like this Penelope weeded. It's very good. Thank you, Penelope, for making this.
That is not a brand name that you would associate with good old
Bourbon. And I think it's, where is this from? Is it from Chicago or something? It's probably Kentucky, but I bought the first bottle of this I've ever had in Chicago. I'd never seen it before. I'd heard about it.
It's a beautiful bottle.
And I bought like the full proof. I don't even know where it's.
So this is the slightly tamped down.
Well, this
version
is 95 proof, so it's not. I've never had a bottle of Penelope that I didn't like. They have about a half dozen different things that they do, and everything they
very
do
pretty.
They do is
To the
very
extent
well.
I can see anything in here. Yeah.
Doesn't really distill. Oh, it's Indiana. Distilled in Lawrenceburg, Indiana.
Huh.
So, I mean, the interesting thing about American bourbon is there's 3 major states that produce it. Obviously, the most obvious one is Kentucky. I think they have over 50 major distilleries in Kentucky.
Wow.
And several, dozens of minor ones. And then the next one is Tennessee. Tennessee whiskey is a little bit different. Sometimes it's more whiskey than it is bourbon.
Kind of a Jack Daniels kind of thing going on.
Yeah, and there's good Tennessee stuff. And then Indiana is the third.
Huh.
And there's good stuff that comes out of Indiana too. So
My father was a fanatic for Jack Daniels.
so was my dad. Back
in the 1950s,
you didn't have a lot of choices.
you didn't have. Yeah, it was kind of like take
You
it or leave
were
it.
you were a Jack dude, or you liked Jim Beam or Southern Comforts.
Yeah.
Maybe you get some Wild Turkey. But yeah, I'm not
Jack Daniels had a great, and probably still does, a great promotional marketing kind of thing. And they would, he must have gone all the way down there to visit the distillery because, or if you were a friend of Jack Daniels, they would give you a square foot of Lynchburg, Tennessee. And then they would send you updates about what was happening to your property.
Is it grown corn? Is it like, that kind of thing?
No, it was just like a little patch. And, what the city council was doing.
Right. That's great.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
That's great.
Was brilliant because you were part of that little town. Mythical kind of little town.
When you go into these, and there's like especially in Kentucky, there's towns that, the entire town is around producing bourbon. They'll have like a half dozen bourbon distilleries in a town of like 3,000 people. And it's in Kentucky, it's a beautiful place. It's
a beautiful state.
Beautiful state.
Yeah.
And
if you can kind of look past the degradation of,
right. Yeah,
it's poor.
I'm not a big fan of Louisville. Have you been to Louisville?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I took basic training at Fort Knox.
Oh, wow, okay.
So we'd get up. Louisville was considered civilization again. God, I don't want to go back to that fort.
Right. Yeah, I mean, a lot of Midwest cities are not doing so well in the last, 20, 30 years.
No, they're doing.
Like Cleveland, St. Louis, Memphis, a lot of those
This is the Trump gamble.
Yeah.
That he can force, inveigle, threaten, however.
Yes.
Manufacturing back to the United States.
Yep. That's what he's trying to do.
And all of the East Coast snobs, media people, even the Wall Street Journal, are saying, forget it.
Yeah.
But he's the only American politician that I'm aware of who takes that seriously and is doing whatever he can. And, he's a politician. He's doing it for his own reasons. He talks about third term just to get all the creeps on the other side of the line going crazy. But it's a gamble.
Yes.
And it's the same thing as, what we were talking about earlier with Musk. It's a gamble. Can you really convince the average voter in the United States of America to do the tough things that are required to wrest the country away from the offshore gang like Apple?
Yeah.
Let's put together a big round building where all the really bright people are, and then we'll ship every frickin' job 3,000 miles away, 10,000 miles away.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
with cheap labor.
That's the question.
Yeah. Let's cheapen the labor. And I mean, we used to build everything in this country. Everything. We didn't have to import anything.
If we got into a serious war, we could not fight it.
No.
Because we are too dependent on supply chains that are potentially, can be disrupted very easily.
Yep.
I mean, how many container ships do you have to torpedo between here and Yokohama? Right. And you've isolated the country. And it was willingly given up. The collusion between the high reaches of American politics and, guys like Steve Jobs.
Yep.
Great hero of mine.
I can't remember who told me this, but yeah, he told me that the illusion of American military might is just that. Because in order to if you truly got into a major ground war, and
no,
we
couldn't do it.
We couldn't do it. We can't. We have a lot of weapons, but
they're too expensive.
They're too expensive to even use, and we can't. Once they get blown up, we can't replace them because we don't have any manufacturing. So
how long would it take to produce a new F-35?
Right.
And some, teenage,
or an aircraft carrier.
Don't get me going on that. Those are just big targets.
Yeah.
And the technology of attack is far outpacing the technology of defense.
Right.
And
absolutely.
It's a big target that you can hit.
Well,
any number of ways.
That's why we use drones for everything now. It's okay, let's we'll send a bunch of drones in, bomb some shit, and then we'll who cares if those get shot?
Well, the most pathetic thing, when it comes to warfare, the most pathetic thing was the big announcement of the F-47, I think it was. Going to be a big time stealth plane. Well, we have stealth planes, but what the hell? It's going to be a better one.
Right.
And it's going to fly with a bunch of other drones. So we can still have a flyboy in the seat.
Right.
But he's going to be surrounded by drones.
Pushing buttons.
Which is pathetic. the guy, the day of the saber rattling guy on horseback, long gone.
Long gone.
Except when it comes to $1 billion airplane that is very vulnerable.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah.
If we get into a big war, all of the top end big weapons will be wiped out probably within a month.
Yes.
Probably less.
Absolutely.
And then what are you left with?
Right. You're sending in guys in conventional warfare to get obliterated.
What Ukraine is taught, it's the same thing as the Spanish Civil War. What Ukraine taught is teaching us is it's cyber warfare now.
Yeah.
You cannot have actual human beings running around and expect them to survive for any reasonable period of time.
No.
If you're Russia and you can jam people into uniform and make them go, or Ukraine for the same reason, except most of their draft age guys are now in Germany.
They've left.
United
or
States
Poland.
of America, no way. We will not tolerate that. It won't happen. It won't happen in Britain. It won't happen in France. Won't happen in Germany. Will not happen in any
You're absolutely
high-level industrialized country.
No, I mean
they won't tolerate it.
And these people who are like especially these Democrats that are just bizarrely like super pro-war now.
It's good for business.
Yeah. It's very odd because it's just like they have no idea what actual war would mean. I mean, the Ukraine is like
it's a vest pocket little tiny.
They're literally
bitty, yeah.
They're literally driving around in vans like kidnapping people so to put them into so they'll fight. And we talk. These people are obsessed about like. Oh, how many people? It's like the COVID thing. How many people have died today in Gaza? We're up to 80,000. And it's just like, that is a fraction of the amount of people who have died in the Russian-Ukraine war. I mean, we're talking over 1 million people who have died.
It's World War I numbers.
Yeah.
World War II numbers, for that matter.
Right. I mean, insane amounts of people have died in that war. People don't give a shit about that. They're just like, oh yeah, keep going. But like people are, the Ukraine has no more military people left of military age.
They're hitting the bottom of the barrel.
They're literally like, they don't have anybody. And
Well, that was the lesson that should have been learned in World War II, is that you can have a superb army. The Wehrmacht that went into Russia, or for that matter, the Grand Army of Napoleon, goes into Russia, and it's a highly well-trained, well-motivated army. But once you have skimmed off that level of the operational level of personnel in an army, then you're down to the leftovers.
Yes.
And the leftovers don't work the same way.
No.
As the Wehrmacht.
No.
Or the Grand Armée.
Right.
And that's what we should have learned in Vietnam.
Yes.
You cream off the top of the, like the Marines.
Yep.
Some high level, air cav. Then you've got the Americal division. Then you've got divisions that are just cobbled together.
Yep.
Guys who were slammed through basic training. This is when I was in the Army. Sent off to Vietnam, parceled out.
Right.
No morale, no sense of cohesiveness, very, very inexperienced NCOs.
Yep.
And an officer corps that is really dumb. And you're going to get licked.
Yeah.
By a bunch of guys wearing rubber tires on their feet. With AK-47s. That's it. They beat us with small weapons. And nobody will learn from that.
No. You probably know some about the Battle of Stalingrad, right? Where they were literally like like sending every third Russian soldier out with a weapon, with a gun.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
just
very
like,
common, very common in the Russian army.
right. It's just like, you're just gonna, I don't know, if someone comes up, hopefully you can jump on somebody and beat them to death and take their rifle.
The lesson that the neocons, you know, in Washington, who thought it would be a dandy little thing to have a coup d'etat in the Ukraine, which is oh God, getting into the most complicated, weird, extremist, corrupt, you name it, any expletive you can use on the Ukraine, had never probably read any military history. And the one lesson that comes through loud and clear is you do not fuck around with Russia.
No.
Because they're bottomless.
They're tough. They're tough motherfuckers too. Like, I don't know. I've met a lot of Russian people.
They're hard and cynical.
They are. Yes, they're tough people. Like, they've been through the shit, and they will gladly roll around in the muck like pigs. I mean, they will gladly do that. I remember I was in Cambodia, in a place called Sihanoukville, which is an interesting place because it's a tourist place. But the last time I was there, it had been completely ripped apart by the Chinese. Like, the Chinese were trying to completely rebuild it.
Really?
And
I don't think Cambodians and Chinese like each other very much.
Well, Cambodians like the Chinese money and the investment. Yeah. And so all of Southeast Asia, and this is what the Chinese do. We'll give you $7 billion, you know, and but what they do, what the Chinese do, it's not like the Americans, let's say they go into, I don't know, wherever, Nicaragua, and say, oh, we'll give you $7 billion, you know, you use it for the way they do it. What the Chinese do is like, we're going to invest $7 billion worth of labor and stuff like that. So what they do is they send all of their guys over. So, I mean, the last time we were over there, we were staying in a hotel. It was just like a little bungalow hotel where you just had the individual little bungalows next to the beach. And, you know, it wasn't like a high, I mean, it was one floor, you know, each room was like a floor. And it was a Russian-owned little hotel. And I sat down one day and drank and talked to the owner. He was a younger guy, probably in his late 30s. And he's just like, yeah, these effing Chinese, you know, they're just like, they come in here like the mafia. And he's just like, he was telling me like 2 months before, so when the Chinese they invested in Sihanoukville to like build it up. It didn't need it. It was a solid tourist town in Cambodia on the beach. You could go to the different islands. It was fine. But the Cambodians decided to take their money. And so what they do is they send all of their guys in, their contractors, their builders. And the thing that sucks about Chinese builders is they use super cheap materials.
Just good enough is the national motto.
And so while we were there, one building collapsed. Like a 7-story building that they're building because they use super cheap concrete and stuff like that. Like they mix it down where it's not very solid. And once every 2 or 3 months, like a building collapses that they're building, like there's pancakes on I don't know, 50 workers. Oh, okay, well it's just, and I mean, I'd been there years before, but when I was there again, it looked like Beirut. They had torn up the entire city, completely torn it up. And this Russian hotel owner, he was just like, yeah, these, he just hated the Chinese. He's like, they bring in all their workers, they bring in all their women, they bring, and And he was just like, yeah, like they'll like walk up and down the street like they're the goddamn mafia. And he was just like, this is a big Russian dude. You know how big Russian dudes are. They're like 6'3", and they're barrel-chested, and they're tough, and they got the big beards, and they got the scowl. And he had all that. Nice guy, though. But he was just like, these Chinese contractor dudes were causing problems for whatever reason. He was just like, what are you doing? Get out of here, or whatever. And they, like, beat the holy living crap out of him in the street.
Really?
In front of his hotel.
Whoa.
And the Cambodian government didn't do anything about it.
Of course not.
And he was just like, this is awful.
Was he going to sell out?
Yeah, I mean, he was seriously thinking about it. Really nice, like, little bungalow hotel, just like beach scenery. You walked across the street from the hotel and you sat on the beach, and you had the girls come out like, oh, you want your toes done and stuff, and you want to, and you're just sitting out there and you're drinking like Thai beer and whatever. But yeah, it was just like, it was really bizarre to see.
The average American has no idea that places like that exist on the planet.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
They've had it so easy. It's so expedient.
Yeah. That
they just don't really. I think this is a problem with a lot of younger people who really think, if we go out, if we take a day off from class and we go walk around and we carry signs, that will do something with the climate. Which is not the way the world works. I hate to tell them.
Weird.
And there's nobody in the educational establishment that will say, kids, I hate to tell you this, but we're going to read a little history here, and we're going to talk about the Nazis. Or we're going to talk about the communists.
Right.
And they didn't like people doing that. No. So what would they do? They would kill you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's depressing when you really come down to it.
Yeah,
So why the hell are we staying in Portland? There's the magic question to my mind.
Well, we've talked about this many times before about it's just
we never reach an answer.
Yeah. I mean, we both talked about our fantasies about moving to various.
It's personal in the end.
Absolutely. There are great things about Oregon. There's still great things about Portland. But Portland's becoming more and more to the point where you're just like,
you want to get away from it.
Yeah. And as we talked about before, I've traveled a great deal. And every time I travel, it's really hard to come back here.
I'll bet.
Because
I'll bet it is.
Anywhere I go, it feels better than this place.
Me too.
And it's kind of one of these things where it's just like, well, maybe it's just because my history here and we decided to get involved and and tried to quote unquote save it, and that was probably silly because this place is probably unsavable.
It does not want to be saved.
Right.
It thinks it's doing great.
Yeah. And so it's just like, well, we should probably go someplace that would appreciate us.
Or just leave you alone.
Yeah, or leave you alone.
Give you a certain amount of the private sector.
Or a place where you just felt like you didn't have to be like, what are you doing? Kind of thing. Where you just stand up and just like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And
for me it was and to some extent my partner Pam Fitzsimmons. Looking back on it, I think we got hit pretty hard by Jack Bogdansky.
Yeah.
Bojack.
Yep.
When he signed off, and he's still signed off.
Yeah, he is.
I checked his
website out. He took it seriously.
And he basically said, I've had it.
I'm done.
What's the point of talking about any of this kind of shit? Because it's not going to change
It's not going to change anything.
And that's a very serious problem.
We thought we were doing some good in 22 because it was like, oh, we're starting to get some people in. We're starting to get Renee Gonzalez in, and Brim Edwards. She's not perfect, but she's better than like a lot of them.
True. I think she cares.
She cares. But with this last election, hats off to them.
They run the show.
They know what they're doing, and they're so deeply connected.
Into the trap.
Yeah, we did. We thought we could do something about this, and it's just like, nope, we can't do anything about this.
Yeah, you do. You reach a point at which, for us, I think writing is a bit of a compulsion. Well, it's what I've done all of my life.
It's catharsis
it's tough to
me.
Stop.
It's catharsis.
Yeah.
It's just like I can sit in it and be like angry.
But is personal catharsis enough?
No, it's not. I would rather just sit on a goddamn beach and drink tequila and retire.
It has to have a little parasol in it.
Right. And just enjoy myself.
Why not?
Why not do that?
That's life.
Rather than just worrying about everything and then like fighting all the crazies in this town.
And to me,
a lot of crazies.
Why should I allow somebody like Steve Novick into my head? Why do I want him in there in the first place?
You truly don't not like Steve Novick. It's just like...
He cost me $60,000.
Yeah.
Indirectly, but it was attributable to his craziness.
Today I call him a tax troll. He
does love those taxes.
He's like this tall, and they had a, I don't know, KGW or one of the local legacy bullshit media things did a story on like, oh well, this is the new tax thing we're gonna do because climate change, and he had this horrible shit-eating grin, ear to ear. And of course, they only show his head because he's like 4'3", but it's just like he's just got this huge, like, I am going to steal more from you, and I'm enjoying this. This is so fun, fucking you over. So we're gonna end the night with what some people call a dessert bourbon, and it's another Penelope. This is really good. I hate to admit because I'm not a big sweet fan.
I pre-sniffed the
bottle. Oh my god, this is
it was
so
really
good.
Great.
It's finished in honey and Aberana barrels, and I love Aberana finish. I've never had anything finished in honey, but it's. You smell it. It's like very honey overload. It's very sweet. But it is just an elixir. And it's low alcohol content.
Excellent. Great. Thank you.
And it's fabulous.
Well, we were earlier, before we started the video, we were talking about what are the perfect booze, what is the perfect accompaniment to sitting there in your easy chair reading the Brothers Karamazov? And this might be it.
This is. You're cozy.
Oh God, that
you're
unbelievable.
You're in front of a fire. Oh,
and you don't even have a fireplace.
Right.
Your living room is burning down, but you don't care.
What people in this country no longer understand is how amazing Russian art is.
It's pretty neurotic.
It is. It's very neurotic. Like
you just got to give up to the
But there's some great Russian art, architecture, music.
Well, yeah. Back to Shostakovich, absolutely. Nothing like it.
I know a lot of Russian Slavic people because Portland has a pretty large Slavic population, actually.
Why is that, I wonder?
I was told about this before.
Lots of Ukrainians.
A lot of them came over during Reagan period, and he heavily sponsored people. He had a guy, I can't remember his name. God, I wish I could remember his name. But he was in charge of like bringing all the Russians over, and
a lot of them are religious dissidents, right?
Yes, yes. So they, strangely enough, now these were all like Eastern Orthodox Christians, but they brought them over, and the guy
it's a different variety of, as I understand it, it's like a breakaway from the official.
Oh, it's so. One of my really good longtime friends is now a bishop on the East Coast of the Catholic Church, but it's Eastern Catholic. Now, there's people get Eastern Catholic and Eastern Orthodox confused. Eastern Orthodox is more like Greece, down that way.
Right. And it's political. It's very plugged in.
Eastern Catholic is like the Slavic Catholics, and so it's different than like the traditional Catholics. It's different, obviously, than the Eastern Orthodox. Do
they recognize the Pope?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
They are Catholics for sure.
Right. Okay.
And there was a huge, and he had a church here over in the Overlook neighborhood, that Eastern Catholic Church, and it was all, Russians, and various Slavics. There are so many different, once I started looking into like Slavic people, there are so many different, there's like 150 different like derivations,
flavors.
It's so interesting, and they're all sort of different. If you go down sort of like southwestern Russia, that's when you start getting into, because they start getting Turkey and stuff. There's like Muslims down there, like the Chechens. The Chechens are all Muslims. Yeah. So like the two brothers that bombed the Boston Marathon, those guys are Chechens. Yeah. They're Muslims. Yeah. So we forget that like Russia is a gigantic country that has so many different, probably as many different flavors as we have in this country in a lot of ways. But the eastern side, like a lot of them are very Asian looking, influenced by Korean people that came across, and it's very fascinating, Russia is.
That's what put Stalin and the Red Army over the top. Yeah. They brought in the Eastern, they just cleaned out all the men. Yep. Probably a lot of the women on the eastern end of Russia. Yep. Shipped them over, stuck a rifle in their hands, and pushed them over against the Wehrmacht. Just wore them down.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, it was interesting too, because I remember when.
How good is this, by the way? You
This is great. This is just great stuff.
It's great.
It's insanely great.
It's super sweet, but it's not.
I want to buy some of this stuff.
It's not like annoyingly sweet. It's just like
no. It's got a tobacco-y kind of what I would call. I don't want to be too hoity-toity here, but a tobacco-y kind of note against the sweet.
Against there's a lot of honey there, but so the sweetness is, how honey is. Honey is not like super sweet. It just sort of has like the sort of viscous sweet to it. Yeah. It's not overwhelming.
And some honeys are almost to the point of being leathery. Yes. There are a whole bunch of different gradations.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, this is just.
This is a Dostoevsky whiskey. No doubt about it.
It's so good. Anytime it's not in the bourbon world. It's not cool to be too sweet. Like, you have to sort of struggle with it.
Definitely.
You got to be like, oh.
It's Clint Eastwood at the bar slamming down. He's got the bottle and he's slamming him down.
He's got the squint eyes and he's just like, he's just pulling them off and he's just like grimacing. Yeah.
And then you go out and shoot somebody. No, this is a little different kind of thing going on here. Which I like.
One of Pete Townshend's, of The Who's, first solo albums was called All the Best Cowboys Have Chinese Eyes.
Really?
And the reference to that was Clint Eastwood, because he always had that super squinted, like, you know? And, I mean, and it's just like, the thing that's great about Pete Townsend, he's one of my favorite songwriters. It's so, like, visual, and there's humor involved as well. And so it's just like, that's just hilarious, because you're absolutely right. He's just got these, you know, he's got these slits for eyes. He's got this grimace on his face all the time. It's just awesome. But yeah, I mean, what were we talking about? We were talking about Russia, I think. And then we got to Clint Eastwood somehow. So we're 4 drinks in. So this is where it usually devolves to, it's like, what were we talking about?
What a debauchery.
Absolutely.
Well, we've settled a whole bunch of accounts here with Angelita and Steve.
We're in District 3.
We're stuck here, man.
We have the worst, by far, politicians of
it's
any
the bottom
district.
Of the barrel. It really is.
We have Steve Novak. We have Angelita Mejio.
And we got...
Teacher Tiffany.
Teacher Tiffany.
Oh.
Was she ever really a teacher?
She was. I guess she was a person. I guess she was supposedly a really good teacher.
Oh.
And she probably should have stayed there. She doesn't say. I mean, she does these. Bless her heart. She's really nice. You know, she does this nice thing.
Comes time to cut the nuts.
And then she's taking photos next to a violent anarchist. You know, and you're just like, and the weird thing about her, she raised by far the most money of any of the Portland candidates.
She's connected to the teachers union. They run the show. And, you know, I remember, like, for like a month, I love watching YouTube videos. Every other YouTube video would have her before, you know how they give you the ad beforehand. Yeah.
And it would be Teacher Tiffany on her little scooter going through the neighborhood with her little, you know, hat, you know, like protective hat on. And you're just like, oh, come on. It's just like, oh.
My honest opinion is anybody who reaches the ballot has failed a psychological test. They are narcissistic.
Absolutely.
That's a gimme.
Yes.
Probably borderline sociopathic.
Right.
And some of them just full bore sociopathic.
Oh, yeah.
And completely situational, which is the worst part of it.
Yeah.
You could not psychologically survive in that environment without being mentally screwed up. It's part of your... If you're not screwed up in that way, you would never get into that game in the first place.
Who would want that job? There's a lot of things I would rather do to make $132,000 a year.
It's chicken feed.
It is.
When you come right down to it.
Right. I mean, it's just like there's a lot of things I would rather do. Now, granted, to some of these young people that are in there, it's just like
Well, they're a little desperate. They don't have.
I mean, I don't think Mario has had a legitimate job before this.
Yeah.
And you know, she's finally making some money, so she's starting to fatten up a little bit. Have you seen her double chin now? It's like she's eating steak and lobster, and like she's just
here.
like,
we
woo!
can't do this. We cannot talk about double chins. Sorry.
Right, yeah.
No, that's
We
off
should.
the.
Sorry,
off the,
and
no,
Anita.
you can't talk about the physical attributes of our political. I mean, anybody who looks at a photograph of Ron Wyden would shriek in horror. Where did this crawl out
What
from?
is wrong with that guy?
Well, he's
Like,
just an old,
physiologically.
rich, settled in,
How old
corrupt
is
kind of
he?
guy.
How old is that guy?
Who the hell knows? I mean, you know.
Like, he might be younger than you, but you look way better. Like, what is the deal with his neck?
Well, I'll bet he would like to know that. If you really got him into a corner at a bar and said, Ron,
What is wrong?
what's going on with the face here? He'd probably tell you that, you know.
And the guy has unlimited money. He's married to a
He married up.
New York
Way up.
landowner.
Landowner.
Like, I mean, that family has.
I'll bet his wife says a little prayer
millions.
every night that, thank you, Jesus, I never bought property in the city of Portland, Oregon.
I mean, yeah. I mean, super rich, rarely shows up in Oregon.
Completely remote.
Yeah.
Like a robotic, you know, for some reason X thinks I really, really, really want to know what Ron Wyden
says. When I
whoever
know
is handling his social media, he probably never sees any of this shit.
well, you know, like he was
You know.
he was the guy who took over for Cory Booker for the filibuster they were doing. So Cory Booker's a young guy.
That was beyond pathetic.
And what's so funny about that is that 2 years ago, the Democrats wanted to do away with the filibuster. Remember this?
No.
They're like, that's unfair. You can't do a filibuster.
Yeah.
And it's just like, now they're tripling down on the filibuster. And it's just like, what? And that was my point at the time. It's just like, so this is something that the opposition does in order to get in the way of passing unfair law policy.
Yes.
Just like the Oregon Republicans did by walking out of the House, and then, you know, of course, the Democrats
rammed that one back up
rammed the
their
whole thing.
tailpipe.
Absolutely, just like, well, if you miss so many days, you're never going to be able to run again. So naughty.
That's our kind of democracy.
Right, it's democracy right there.
Yeah. And then the voters thought it was just great.
Well, that was you know whose bill that was.
You can get anything passed in the state of Oregon.
So
The
that
collective IQ
that was
this state is very low.
That was Confom's thing, and Confom does a lot of really.
Well, let's not go to Confom here. Oh man, that's getting too gross.
I mean, I don't even. I mean, when you see someone like that who has political power, it's there's nothing you can do anymore.
And she's on the ascent.
Right.
This is the.
She'll probably run. She'll run for governor after Kotek's done.
Well, who's going to take out Kotek? Reed? I don't know. That's a big reach.
At least Tobias Reed does some fairly reasonable stuff. At least he's going after a few people, but I mean, it's just the same
His
machine.
ultimate job is to protect the legal flank of the Democratic Party.
Absolutely.
This is how machines work.
Yes.
You have two jobs that are very, very important. Not necessarily the governor,
Right.
but you have to control access to the ballot,
Yep.
Secretary of State,
Yep.
and you got
Yep.
to protect your legal flank.
Yes.
The rest of it is icing on the cake. Governors come, governors go,
Right.
but the AG,
And the Secretary of State.
you got to have them or you don't have a political machine.
Right.
You just don't.
So true. And people, I mean, you often talk to me about Chicago and Daley there, and he had that, right? He had that control.
Well, Dick Daley was a strange kind of genius.
Yeah.
And he worked Dick Daley got up really early. He went to work really early. He dealt personally with everybody. Who knows what he was doing. He was the only straight guy, and believe me, I knew some really great investigative reporters back in my Chicago days.
Yeah.
They devoted months, years. Where is Daley putting his money? Well, he wasn't putting it anywhere because he was the only guy who wasn't a thief.
Yeah.
He was the straight guy surrounded by thieves.
Yeah.
And he controlled the state AG, but he definitely controlled the AG in the county.
Yeah.
And you got out of line, you went to jail.
Yeah.
And that was the deal.
Right.
You get to make your money. Don't make too much.
Right.
Don't get out of shape.
Right.
I'll let you do it, but I'm the guy who lets you do it.
Yeah.
And Daley was just a total phenomenon.
Why didn't he ever run for president, do you think?
Why bother?
Yeah.
He made presidents.
Yeah.
He gave the presidency to John Kennedy.
Yeah, he did.
It was the late count in Illinois that put Kennedy over the top. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Nixon knew it. Everybody.
Yeah.
It was stolen.
Yeah.
And, Daley, when you want to pick up the phone and then tell the president what the hell you want him to do, well, he'll do it.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea. Daley had a definite modus operandi with the mafia.
Yeah.
Mafia did not run Daley, but Daley knew that
Had
these
an
guys
agreement.
were dangerous.
Yep.
And they also took care of things.
Yes.
The old mafia, who knows quite what the new one is, but the old mafia was, guys want to go play poker. They want to have slot machines. They
Right.
want to do this.
So
they want to do
You're going to
that.
allow the poker games.
Well,
The little poker games.
It's technically speaking illegal, but they're going to do it anyway, so
Right.
they might as well do it for us.
And you might as well make a little cash on the
Yeah.
side. Yeah.
That's the whole idea.
My brother was involved in like the illegal poker games in his state in Montana. My brother was a good poker player. So the Church brothers were always huge risk takers. We were, that was just sort of how we grew up. I mean, it's how I got into crime. It's how my brother too.
Bad boys.
Yeah, so have you ever seen A River Runs Through It, the movie?
Yeah.
So the two brothers, right?
Yep.
That was us basically.
Yeah.
Like climbing mountains, doing drugs, drinking a lot,
It's guy stuff.
It's true Americana guy stuff. But we were
Can
both.
you see Tina Kotek doing the same thing? No.
And it was, and so, but yeah, I mean, that's sort of how it presents itself in these situations. It's like,
He was doing a public service.
Yeah.
There are guys who want to gamble.
Yes.
Period.
Yeah. And it's like, let's allow the card games. And as long as the card games aren't getting robbed, which they occasionally did, and maybe once in a while you allowed a card game to get robbed, and they would figure it out amongst themselves, and a couple people would die over that and that kind of thing.
You bet.
And, it was just...
Great Sopranos episodes based on, you gotta respect the card game.
Yeah. Yeah, you never want... I mean, it was verbose to rob the card games. Like, you could not do it. It was just... And anyone who tried...
It's a death sentence.
Would end up, in Lake Michigan. with a couple of with some concrete boots on, you know,
in Pontiac Stadium,
exactly.
In the end zone.
I mean, it was just like, you know, you can try. Have you ever seen the movie Killing Them Softly?
I don't know.
Highly underrated
Who
movie.
the hell was in that movie?
Oh, great actor. So Brad Pitt was the hitman.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Okay, it comes back.
Like that
Great
movie was
movie. Yeah,
highly underrated.
Yeah.
So good. So the premise
Gandolfini was the...
Gandolfini was like the hitman too that he brought in, but he was all messed up. That was his last movie he did.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so tragic that he died so young. Such a great actor. What's that Irish guy that's the actor that's got the crazy hair? He's Mendelsohn, Ben Mendelsohn. Brilliant actor.
Yeah.
He was in that. He was the junkie that like was part of the robbing, the two guys that robbed the... I mean, just great actors all the way through. The best part, though, about that movie is the end. It's Brad Pitt, and it's really another great actor. I can't remember his name. He's got like kind of the balding head, and he played the patriarch in 6 Feet Under. He's God, I can't remember his name, but anyway, he's the fixer, and Brad Pitt is the enforcer, the hitman. And at the end of the day, he's coming in. He's like, he's talking. He's comes to get his money after he killed like 3 people. And Richard Jennings. Richard Jennings is the guy.
Fabulous
actor. Yeah, and he's like, well, here's 30 grand. It's like, I did 3. That's 45. He's like, well, basically the people said you get 10 apiece because whatever. And he's just like, and all the while, Obama is in the background talking about, you know, the American dream and everything like that.
I remember that.
And like Brad Pitt points to Obama saying, he's just like, America is not a country, it's a business. And pay me, motherfucker. And it's just like, you know, it was just like so brilliant. And people didn't get that movie. I don't know why. Like, I've seen that movie 3 or 4 times.
Maybe too honest.
It's too on the nose. You know what I mean?
Well,
It's brilliant movie.
the brilliance of Godfather. This is we're getting way off the topic here, but the brilliance of Godfather was you really could like an awful lot of you could like an awful lot of the people in that movie.
Yeah.
And I was shopping around to watch another series. Kind of ran out of one series, which is always critical because, oh my God, what are we going to do without a series? So we were trying to watch Succession, which is a big hit on HBO.
Is. I could never get into that show. I watched the first season.
Nobody is any goddamn good.
No, everyone a bastard.
Is a shit.
Yes.
And
there's no
nobody
protagonist.
I can focus in on that I even remotely would want to be around.
That's modern filmmaking now. It's like, well, we need to show everybody's flaws. But the problem is you don't have no protagonist. Everyone's a scumbag.
Yeah.
So you just want all of them to die.
Exactly right.
It's just like when someone dies that you're just like, well, he deserves it.
And so
like every single one of them.
We're left with a piece of kind of 1930s surrealism. You know, the big hit was what's the title? Not Succession, but you know, the one about you're an innie or an outie and all that kind of stuff.
I don't know what that one is.
Forget that. Anyway, this is great stuff.
Right.
We love it.
We love it.
Well, have we talked ourselves out?
Well, we'll finish this. We'll talk through this and we'll end it.
Okay.
I was thinking, you know,
I like where we've gone on this one.
I really do too. This is fun. I was thinking
This is why you go to a bar and you get shit-faced with your best bud.
it's the core of the human experience, right? No, seriously, it really is. It's like you.
No argument.
Have you ever paid attention to Camille Paglia at all?
Oh, she's brilliant.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
she's
About
sort of
5
like
or 6 years too soon.
yes,
Brilliant.
yes,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like she saw the. I mean, that woman probably has like 186 IQ. I mean, it's like scary.
Yeah.
Like, but she was sort of like the feminist anti-feminist, and she talks about how society used to be where you had leadership in the matriarchy and the patriarchy. Like this image now is just like, oh, you just had this patriarchal person that was just like barking out orders and beating you if you didn't do it right. It's like, no, you had these family cores where you had women and men didn't hang out a lot together except at the end of the night, dinner and with your family. But like you had your neighborhood and you'd have 4 or 5 guys hanging over an engine of a car. And then you'd have the women
Exactly.
inside, doing, talking about, whatever.
Yep.
And then they would all go their separate ways. And then at the end of the night, you'd have your dinner and then you'd go to bed.
Yep.
And she explains it perfectly. It's just like it wasn't that women didn't have any power. They had a different kind of power.
Yeah. Absolutely true.
And
No doubt about it.
and women.
My mom ran
Oh, so did
my
my
house.
mom. So did my mom. Yeah,
Not explicitly, but
Right.
implicitly ran it.
absolutely. Yeah,
That's a lot of power that you don't have to flaunt.
right.
That may be one of the defects of modern feminism. You
That's
have
what
to
it is.
flaunt the
Yes.
power.
And they don't understand what real power is.
Well,
Like-
yeah, there you go.
And that's the problem. It's just like, oh, my power is like my
It's not
vagina.
dominance, it's influence.
Absolutely.
It's the ability to move events in a certain direction
Absolutely.
without destroying the person who's on the other side of the
Women
equation.
ran. So I mean, the basic building block of society is families. Women ran the families. They ran
Not
the
anymore.
families. They don't anymore.
Statistically speaking, the
Right.
United States does not have that building block anymore.
No, it doesn't.
Whether you like it or not.
Right.
There are an awful lot of folks who really, like kind of lace-doily revolutionaries, who really think that ought to be just, it's too yesterday.
These people have no clue, man. They have no clue how societies are run. They have no clue. And, I've talked to you before about spending quite a bit of time in Central Europe. And so these are small countries. They're all about 10 million people. They don't grow really population-wise.
They're
One-
just there.
One, because but they're fine.
Yeah.
They, like, Hungary is fine, Czechia is fine, Austria is fine, Croatia is fine. They all they all do fine.
And they live
Oh,
in
poor
wonderful places.
I mean, just beautiful. You can go,
God.
you can spend 15 euro and see the most amazing music you've ever seen in your life, like
Yeah.
classical music in like places that you can't even imagine here that
Yeah.
have ever been built.
Yeah.
And
I mean, the difference between where a string quartet would play in Prague, the theater, versus Lincoln Hall at PSU, which is a wonderful space, but it's just a big black box.
Yes.
There are no cherubs.
I can't even
There's no gold leaf.
describe some of the places I saw music in, like Vienna. Now, I would see classical music in Vienna and Prague, but I'd also see jazz music in a basement bar.
Yeah.
There'd be 25 people in there with the most amazing jazz. You'd be like from me to like 12 feet away.
Yeah.
Just incredible musicians.
If you go on YouTube and you, in the search thing, you put Howlin' Wolf, greatest American voice maybe of all time.
Yes.
The big concerts that Howlin' Wolf played
We're in Europe.
Yeah. People sitting there transfixed by this guy from the south side of Chicago who had been playing at the Checkerboard Lounge for 200 people, maybe?
Yeah.
And they loved the man. They loved him.
That's why all the jazz musicians back in the 50s and 60s went over there.
Yeah.
Because they worshiped these guys.
Yeah.
And they didn't care what color they were, I mean, it was just like, yeah, it's really interesting over there because there's no pretension. There's no like, oh, there's political stuff there, obviously.
Of course there is, yeah.
But it's not like, they still have this very clear idea. It's like, I'm Czech and you're Czech. We don't have that here. It's just like, well, I'm American, but what are you? It's just like, you're not American if you don't believe what I believe.
Yeah.
And it's very communal. It's very they're nationalistic in the best possible aspect of that.
Yeah.
And, these countries don't allow people in. Unless you have, like, for example, I looked into Hungary, like, if you spend 600,000 euros on a place in Hungary, you can get
It's true.
You can get a Hungarian passport.
That's right. A gold passport.
Yeah. So, and that's what a lot of countries do. It's like, if
we
we're going to
sort
allow
of
you
do that
in
in the United States, but we're not real serious about it.
Well, except for the refugees, we'll just let them in and cause havoc wherever they want to. And I'm not saying that in any sort of negative way. It's not necessarily their fault. It's just like we're bringing people into places where they can't get a job. They can't, it's just chaos. I think probably a majority of people are trying to come over here are legitimately trying to do it because they can't make it where they're from. But there's a lot of people too that are just like, it's bad. What they want. But
the UK right now is in the middle of trying to come to a reckoning with an irredentist minority, but a big minority of people who do not necessarily agree with the basic premise of the nationhood of the United Kingdom.
Right.
They don't agree with it. They want, and they are accruing the kind of political power that can move the needle on, we're going to do it the way we want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not necessarily in a sort of cohesion with the history, the tradition, the continuity of the British nation.
Yeah.
And nobody knows what to do about that.
Right.
And the United States of America is getting itself in certain regions of the country into that kind of conundrum.
Yes.
The fact that you have large areas in this country, I'm thinking of, around the Detroit area particularly. Mm-hmm. Okay. Everybody gets a chance to call their own shot at a local level.
Yeah.
But you do not get to substitute a religiously based legal system on top of a system that has been in place in the United States of America
for centuries.
2 centuries.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
And so that's the push-pull in politics. And it's the push-pull in politics that we have to some extent, in Portland, which is, okay, how are you going to define what the norm is in terms of the polity of this entity known as Portland? Who's in, who's out?
Right. Well,
and if you're out, what do we do with you? What do we do with you? What do we do with the people who are out?
I think we've seen that. I mean, the people who are in are the oppressed, whatever that means to them.
Well, they were oppressed 200 years ago, but...
Right. And so...
How long does that last?
And the people... And anyone who's not oppressed is just... It's a free-for-all. You're on your own. You figure it out because... well, if you're a business owner, obviously you're oppressing other people because you're not giving your company to them.
You believe in profit,
right?
Which is
the only way that companies can run is through profit, and usually people think, as someone who's run various companies in my life, the only way that you can run as a company and can continue going as you have X amount of profit. And it's not like, oh, I'm just taking all the profit because, You usually use the profit to employ more people, to expand your business into different areas, or to find new ways to...
But see, that's immoral. No, seriously, it's immoral.
Right.
If you're any member of the Democratic Socialists,
like they're
talk
Democratic.
About an oxymoron.
Oh my God.
Democratic Socialists of Portland. Jesus that is Christ. Immoral.
Right.
You are not allowed to do that.
Mm-mm.
The first measure that has bubbled up in the city council is, let's stop some kind of esoteric, I can't understand it, computer program that's figuring out the kind of rents we should charge people. No, make that illegal. It's wrong.
I don't understand.
Because you're trying to max out the amount of money you're making on a business.
I don't understand that at all.
They don't either. That's the truth of the matter. They don't have a clue. Because they've never run a business. They've never met a payroll. They've never built anything.
They've never had a deadline. They've never had.
They have gotten free money.
We don't have one person. Is there one person in that 12
actual
who's run a business?
Person? No.
No, one of those people are.
No.
I mean,
they've all been on the government dole.
For years. Mario. I mean, she's barely had a job before this. Teacher Tiffany, she was a teacher. What has Steve Novak done besides?
It's all government payroll.
Yeah. Olivia Clark. She's
quasi, but she was on the sort of political interface between capitalism and whatever the hell is on the other side of the
Pearl Guinea is like, she's non-profit queen, same kind of, just government. It's like most of these people are government or non-profit.
490 people.
Yes, and they have no throwing a budget in front of these people. These people have no idea how to budget anything. No. They have zero idea. I mean, what is Angelita Mario understand about a budget? She has no idea. No idea.
Well, I have a checkbook and I try to get it evened out every month.
Sometimes I bounce some shit, but I mean, it's because of the patriarchy. Yeah, I mean, it's these people. I mean, I just when these people got elected, I was like, and I saw it coming, frankly.
Oh, I think we all did.
We saw it. I mean, it was just.
I saw it coming even before they wrote the final charter.
Yeah,
it was obvious what Julia Meyer was mechanizing.
The only thing that surprised me is that Avalos didn't get the presidency.
She pushed too hard.
She almost got. Yeah, people were like, "What are you? Oh, okay, you're intimidating." Yeah, and I mean, it went through like 16 rounds of like the usual suspects supporting her. Oh, and then all of a sudden they went away, and
in private,
right? And then all of a sudden, Pearl Guinea came up in the conversation. Oh.
What are you going to do?
So what do you think the agreement was? Because what did Candace Avalos get out of that? Because she
got some big committees.
Yeah. Yep.
And we don't, democracy is a flow. It's not a solid.
Right.
It's liquid, and the liquid has not clotted up yet in Portland. And the problem with Portland is if it was just one town, let them screw it up. We don't care. But
now it's not even the top 25 cities in America.
Yeah,
like
we're
Austin took it
we're
over.
slipping.
Yeah.
Not that anybody gives a shit, but we're slipping. So
we're this little burg
in Texas has edged us aside.
Have you been to Austin,
a one-day
Texas?
story in local, like that if you were a competent editor at the Oregonian, you would say, we got to find out about that. What the hell is going on?
Have you ever been to Austin, Texas?
No, actually, I think I've gone through it.
Austin's a great city.
Well, it's in Texas.
Yeah.
And Texas
Well, the last I was there almost 20 years ago.
I'm sure it's different.
Yeah. Incredible music, great food.
The problem with Oregon is it belongs to Portland.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about that.
No.
If Portland decides we're going to destroy the entire state forestry system because we want to protect an owl.
Right. They'll do it.
Tough luck. It's going to happen.
I remember when I first moved to Portland, there were 3 large corporations in downtown Portland owned massive buildings and office space that were lumber companies. Downtown Portland. Huge. Within 5 years, they were gone. They were out of downtown Portland.
Well, because they got destroyed.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the point of the spear was, okay, we'll just make it impossible for you to cut a tree down.
And I think the agreement was we'll bring a bunch of tech in here, which is right around the time they started bringing tech in, right? Mm-hmm. And tech gone now.
Nuts.
Crazy. There's no tech in. Tektronix was bought out. Intel is a blathering calf on the ground, struggling for air. They'll get bought out by some international concern.
It's going to be broken up and parceled out.
And they'll move all the jobs out of Hillsboro and Nike's fucked.
Doo-doo.
Yeah.
Ultimately, huge doo-doo.
All of our apparel. Portland used to be a huge apparel town. They had obviously Nike, Adidas was a huge influence here, and then you had
it's just an outpost. It's just a little design outpost.
And then you had Columbia Sportswear, and all of those are struggling.
Yeah,
they're really struggling. And so we have no industry here anymore. We have bureaucracy. That's all we have. And unfortunately, with bureaucracy is is that it doesn't create any wealth.
No,
it just sucks
merely
it.
Extorts it.
Yeah,
that's the problem. There was a piece in the paper today that I was reading it crept somehow into the Wall Street Journal, that the real gain in, if you really start to get down into the nubs of the federal numbers, all of the employment gains, all of the, like the increase in employment goes to the public sector.
Oh, I mean, yeah, we covered that. It was like in the last 5 years.
This is not sustainable.
17,000 new public sector jobs and like 1,500 new private sector jobs.
Yeah. And if you take
12-fold.
If you take healthcare out of the equation,
right,
there is no economy.
There's no economy here.
No.
They've
It's
scared
sick
it all
people
off.
and government.
They're just like, I mean,
I
was telling you earlier, I know
look.
personally at least 50 people who have moved from here in the last 5 years. Several are business owners, small business owners.
Yep. Yep.
People who are high earners.
The only thing
They're gone. They're just like, and whoa, would they move to like Hillsborough? It's like, no, one of them moved to North Carolina, one of them moved to Florida, one of them moved to, it's just like, they're just out. Because it's just like, and that's how we feel too. We have no business in Portland anymore. All of our business, we have the projects we're doing right now, Ashland,
which is overflow from California.
Absolutely. We have, what's the goddamn town on 84, 60 miles from here, where they do all the parasailing and everything.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And Sun Valley, Idaho, and, West Lynn.
Yeah.
No one's building anything here.
Yeah.
Because they can't, because there's no money in it, and they can't afford it, and
The socialists are running the fucking city.
yeah,
Give it a break.
right.
I mean, if you're looking at a place where you're going to deploy your capital, are you going to give it to socialists? Give me a break.
No,
No.
bad idea. And I one of our friends who is a huge landowner, he's basically completely divested himself of Portland.
I think that's a very smart thing to do.
Yeah, and
That's the thing about capitalism. You don't get to vote with your emotions. It's the numbers that
right.
count.
Yeah.
Are you going to make any money, and are you going to survive? And you're not going to do that in Portland. Portland is a kind of strange little resort city.
It is.
And as long as people will pay big bucks for bad beer, you look at the Stark Street Strip where you live.
Yes.
Where I live. Those businesses are floating on a kind of weird economy which is detached from any actual productive
right
stuff.
Yes.
It's discretionary.
Yes.
If I had a bar on Stark Street, I would think, well, things are going great now, but what's going to be here in 5 years?
Yeah.
Given the kind of turnover that you see,
No, it's just constant
like
turnover.
on Hawthorne,
And
Division,
the Montville
on,
Strip is there's actually like you go out on a pretty much any night except maybe like Monday or Tuesday night. There's a lot of traffic down there. Like more than you would see downtown in a square amount of 5 blocks or whatever. And so I think some of those businesses are doing well. Like, I think Tinker Tavern's doing great. They have the right combination. It's like, we're a Bill's bar on Sunday, so you come in and there's, 80 people that come in.
Eric runs a smart bar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Arbor Hall, where we hang out, they struggle a little bit more because it's a smaller bar and it's more like...
They need more square footage.
They do.
They do. They need an actual, honest-to-God bar.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
And, I mean, those are great people. I love those guys.
But how, if you're in their shoes, how do you expand and where do you find the capital?
And that's the struggle. So
Very tough.
You know, during
town.
COVID, they allowed all these outdoor spaces to be built. Well, now...
Yeah, but we have winter.
Right.
Sorry.
And spring and fall, where, you know, we have 8 months of rain.
Yeah.
And so, during COVID, the city allowed them to build...
And servicing that outdoor space takes a body.
Yes. The other thing is...
That's a big deal.
So, this is what the guys at the couple at Arbor Hall told me. It's just like... So, the city allowed bars to build these structures during COVID,
yeah,
outside of the usual expectations of what you're building.
Yep.
Now they're like, oh, this isn't fit city code, so now you need to tear it all down, and at a cost of tens of thousands of dollars, you need to build something new. And they're just like, we're not going to do that.
No, of course.
And so, like, you know, this is what the city does to businesses. They just over and over and over again, they just screw them.
Well, the basic government structure of Portland and Oregon, as far as I can tell, is extortionate.
Yeah. I mean, they act like a goddamn mafia.
The thing about the Chicago machine was, you have to pay us, and everybody knew what the kind of menu was.
Yeah.
To do something. But once you do it, once you pay us, you get to do whatever you want.
Right. You button
Portland
the club.
is different.
No, it's
you got to pay us
different.
up front, and then you got to keep paying us down the road.
Whenever we arbitrarily decide that
whenever you get X number of new dollars coming in, we get a piece of it.
Right. And we're going to keep racking up your
That's the socialist mentality.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just going to take and take and take.
Yeah.
We want to take to the point where you're still barely hanging on by your fingernails. And that's the perfect spot. So we're just going to keep letting you do this. And okay, where are you at? You want more of that?
Number 4.
It's really good.
Just a little trickle.
Just a taste. Just a taste.
Just a taste.
So good though.
It's really good. Thank you.
Yeah, it's crazy good.
Tell the audience what this is again.
This is Penelope Rio. Buy it. Yeah, you really do need to buy this, and it's 98 proof, which is on the lower side of good bourbon. It's straight bourbon whiskey, finished in honey and Amberana barrels. Mm. Double cask finish.
I love Amberana, whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, we've had a few of these. I love Amberana. It's like a Brazilian. It's a Brazilian
Devilwood.
Yeah. And that's what they call it, the Rio.
It will probably make you impotent.
Well, that's okay now. Well, I don't want to be impotent. I want to not be able to reproduce children. But still be able to, perform. I mean...
Pretend. Well, I'm about talked out here
Should we finish this up? Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Proceed.
I hope you enjoyed it.
You bet.
Yeah. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
That.
Yeah,
that was the one you should put on YouTube.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
It was fucking great.
Absolutely.